got to figure that out. I don't know why it keeps double clutching like that. Anyway, John here, you there. Thanks for dropping by. Wall Pass Wednesday, and pretty much anything is on the table. Here's the rundown. We got to talk about what is being discussed in Europe at the moment, and it involves Atlanta United. So we'll get into that this morning. 9:30, Chris Doran's going to join us, the play-by-play voice of the Columbus Crew. We're going to talk about players, ins and outs. We're going to talk about coaches, ins and outs. And it gives us an excuse to kind of get some feedback from the Columbus area about Wilfried Nancy and what happened with Wilfried Nancy and the 33 days. Then 10 o'clock, busiest man of the Northeast, Dylan Butler, is going to join us, and we'll discuss the other things going on in Major League Soccer, all the other ins and outs and Messi and friends. And it looks like Allende is probably going to be staying. They've figured out something there and all of the machinations therein. Then at 10:30, something really, really cool. Something really, really cool. We're going to start as a part of our coverage of the Roots, looking at the OFC Pro League. And I know that you're sitting there and you're going, what? What in the wide world of sports is that? The Oceania Confederation has started a professional league. And there are 8 separate teams that are going to be kicking off their first ever season at the end of next week. And so what we're going to be doing as a part of our coverage with the Roots and here on the morning show, we're going to be catching up with as many of the teams as we can and find out how the league is doing. You know, the first year growing pains, all those kinds of things. And so it's a really cool opportunity to look at something, because I can't remember a federation really sitting there and saying, you know what, we need to kind of grow the game a little bit. And so what we're going to do is we're going to actually start a pro league. And to do it in Oceania, it's kind of difficult because you can't just kind of take a Greyhound or take a charter and go from one team to the next. And we get into this discussion, and it was a really cool discussion to start things off with Rabeih Krayem, and he is the vice chair of the Solomon Kings franchise that is based in the Solomon Islands, and it's literally like a 3.5-hour plane ride from there to Brisbane, Australia. He's based in Brisbane because he's the president of a club in Brisbane, and the relationships and the associations that he has got a Solomon Islands franchise to be a part of this league. You're talking about New Guinea, you're talking about Solomon Islands, you're talking about Vanuatu, you're talking about Fiji, you're talking about the Australian mainland. They're not near each other. And so what we get the chance to do is kind of see a league grow from absolute zero. We're starting that off at 10:30 with Rabeih Krayem of the Wynnum Wolves. He's the president of the Wynnum Wolves, but he's the vice chair of the Solomon Kings franchise. So full disclosure, we caught up with him last night, 11:30 our time, East Coast time. It was 2:30 in the afternoon in Brisbane, Australia, but nevertheless, it was 11:30 here, so it's a 15-hour time difference. And so we catch up our first interview in the OFC Pro League with Rabeih Krayem, and we get to find out about what it's like to build something from scratch and to have all of this responsibility, not just from a franchise perspective, but from a league perspective and an international perspective. Because, I mean, this is where you're having the prime minister of a country come and visit your training sessions to find out, hey, how's it going? You know, one of those kinds of things. And so you never get that second chance to start something and try to do it the right way. So we're going to catch up with the Solomon Kings perspective at 10:30 after Dylan Butler, and we'll discuss everything because we got AFCON, we got news, we got Manchester United, we got all the things. And I know that Ricky is busting in through all the doors this morning because of, and I guess this will be opening kickoff for since it's a talking point, we're up early. So here, we'll go ahead and we'll make this opening kickoff brought to us by our friends over at the Morning Espresso, which is our predecessor in the timetable here at the SDH network. Jason has Morning Espresso. Traditionally, it comes in 8:30 or so. It's your newsletter, it's your audio, it's your video, all the things that are happening that are going on that you need to keep an eye on, that you might have missed in the overnight, that you got to keep an eye on going into the day. And then he's the lead into us. We get to expand on stuff, and then your day is off and running. So Morning Espresso is bringing you opening kickoff. And yes, Ricky, among others, has laid it all out. So there you go. You're looking at Bart Sleesh, and it is Tom Bogert et al. Are reporting in their timelines that it looks like Bart is being moved to Brøndby. Only formalities, and this is from Total Polish Football. It's from Football Scout. It's from Tomasz Lodarczyk, who has been, when Sleesh was inbound, Lodarczyk was the one who was letting everybody know that Bart Sleesh would be heading this way. So you've got a bunch of different sources in Europe or linked to Europe, plus Tommy Scoops, Tom Bogert, looking at Bart Sleesh leaving Atlanta and heading to Brøndby. It would put him closer to home. He is newly married and trying to start a family. So is that a part of it? Don't know. It would make sense somewhat. But apparently, according to whichever source you're looking at, it has gone as far as either interest or passing medicals and signing a deal until 2029. Looks like the numbers that are being discussed in the transfer fee are in the neighborhood of €3 million. So €3 million, $3 million. The currency is to be debated. So it looks like a fee in the region of $3 million. Bart Sleesh from Atlanta to Brøndby. So we'll keep an eye out on that. Once again, 69 matches, 2 seasons here. And so it looks like right now Bart might be heading to Brøndby once again, and Tomasz Lodarczyk 4 hours ago. So that would be 5:13 local time. So basically late morning in Poland. Tomasz Lodarczyk says that Sleesh is going to become a player for Brøndby. Only the formalities with MLS and Atlanta United remain. Passed his medical, set to sign a contract till 2029. Transfer fee is over €3 million, the second highest purchase in the club's history. And so that's kind of where we are. So you've got Football Scout, who had mentioned that Sleesh was going to be a Brøndby player. And once again, that's not the only movement that Brøndby seems to be making today. But at the moment, you have multiple sources in Europe or linked to Europe saying that Bart Sleesh is heading that direction for a fee of about $3 million, but it's either euro or dollars. We don't have that official. So that's kind of what we're staring at this morning. That came through, like I said, very, very early this morning, our time, and so we're going to be keeping an eye on it as we go. The question then, if this does impact the midfield, then you've got to upgrade. You have to upgrade in this situation, and you've got to figure out how you're going to upgrade. And this legitimately, I mean, and to a point that Ricky is making in the timeline that I will reinforce, Tata Martino and the way that he constructs a roster is more South American, United States, this hemisphere, what have you. So this part of the planet. So what you're doing is you're looking for a particular player. And once again, it doesn't matter who the coach is. Any coach has their own philosophy when it comes to roster assembly. And if they feel like they need to bring in player X and they have to move someone that is currently on a roster that does not fit your MO, then these things do come across the bow. And you have apparently an interested party in Brøndby who is interested in Bart Sleesh, national player for the Polish national team from the Department of Redundancy Department. And so you found someone apparently who is interested in Bart Slisch and his future. You're going to sign him for a 3-4 year deal, and you're going to be getting capital in return, to where you now have to upgrade at that position. And if you go into transfer market and things like that, you're looking for that kind of a player to be that person that will fill the hole that you're creating by sending a player like Bart Slisch on his way. Then there were other players that were, and like I said, and because of this time of the year being this time of the year, it's one of those where you sit there and you're looking at all the rumor mills, and you're looking at all the things and the players, and it's like, okay, well, what about this person, this person, this person, this person, etc. So you're kind of sitting there and you're going, just to kind of keep players in mind. At the moment, haven't really seen a whole lot of rumors and conversations attached to Atlanta United. Then just going by Transfermarkt, you're looking for, let's see if there's anything in the queue. Like I said, and literally this is just by staring at Transfermarkt, you look at percentages and all this kind of stuff. So you're thinking about you've got Bart Slisch is right there at the top of the list, and there is obviously the update that was posted this morning. Then they mention outbound Josh Cohen, Tomas Jakob, Lucas Hoyos. Milton Jimenez was mentioned at the end of the calendar year from Boca Juniors with a value of 3.2. Jimenez, a number 9, a center forward, 29 years old. Squadron management contract expires at the end of the calendar year in 27. So, like I said, this was just a mention. This is what you're looking at. No, it doesn't interest me. I love pop-up windows. Hey, this might interest you. Well, no, it doesn't. So, nothing in the rumor mill from, say, Transfermarkt after January 1st. So the first week here in 2026, haven't seen anything on the rumor mill. Just to give you an idea as to late December stuff, Elias Baez was the other player that was mentioned coming from San Lorenzo, and we'd mentioned what Baez can bring to the table. And the number that they were looking at for Baez, initially it was like 2.5 for 50%. Then San Lorenzo was like, nah, it's got to be more. And so there was discussions, and we saw reports that it might be 3. So you're looking at a left back from San Lorenzo in Elias Baez, who, like, left back, that's it. Like 58 of the 60 matches he's played in his career, left back. So you've got someone to keep an eye on there, the 21-year-old from San Lorenzo. And you're going, okay, I understand where that one's coming from. And that literally that was the last one that I can think of, the Elias Baez rumor that had come across the table as any part of any discussion. I had not heard the Milton Jimenez thoughts. I had not heard about the Valentino Acuna from Newell's Old Boys, which makes sense on a couple of different levels. Had not heard about Enzo Perez from River Plate. Had not heard about Junior Alonso from Atletico Mineiro in late November. Baez was the last one in the list that I had heard of. The note on Valentino Acuna, by the way, was December the 18th about Newell's and Atlanta United. And 19-year-old, he'd be a U22 defensive midfielder from Rosario, but linked to with Newell's Old Boys, main position defensive midfielder. He has played central mid and attacking mid in the past, but defensive midfielder was the rumor that had the highest percentage of any kind of recognition, and it was only a 10% recognition. So in the Clausura last year, 15 matches for Newell's, had a goal and an assist. But once again, if you're a defensive midfielder, if you're going to stay at home, 24 in the Clausura playoffs, so it's 5 and 15, so it's another 20. 2 goals, 1 assist in 21. So and then he's played 22 matches for Newell's 2, 18 for the first team, 3 goals, 2 assists in his entire lifespan as a professional, whether it was from renewals and renewals. Like I said, that's the only one that has any kind of a percentage bump to it, and it was only a 10% number with Valentino Acuna. Like I said, Baez was the last one that I had heard under any auspice or circumstance as an inbound. But now Bart Sliech, as an outbound, is rocketing to the top of the charts, as it looks like that he would be heading to Brøndby for $3 million. And so then you're looking at things that are translated, 3 million euros. So is it 3 million euro? Is it 3 million US? Don't know. 3 million is a number that has been posted with Bart Sliech, contract through 29. And that is kind of the end of what we know with what is being reported. So there are several sources out there, Tom Bogert included, that are mentioning Bart Sliech to Brøndby. Only formalities remain, contract through 29. 3 million euros by Ladarchik, $3 million from other folks. So Ladarchik is saying 3 million euros, second highest purchase in club history. Then that's kind of where we are. But if Bart Sliech goes, you know what you will be missing this season. So that's kind of where you're at. David asking about the U22 spots. And I think Edwin is still holding on to one. Let me double check the GAM numbers. Let's see, September MLS GAM 2025 club roster profiles. Okay, so here we go. The club roster profile. No, I don't want the spring. MLS club roster profiles September 2025. Okay, so unveils roster profile. So this is as of September 19th, after the roster freeze. So here's what you were staring at involving Atlanta at the time. Let me go all the way up to the top of the page because it decided it wanted to give me everything from Vancouver first. I don't want Vancouver. I need the other end of the alphabet. So your 22s, Edwin was listed as one of them, even though he's out on loan. And then Edwin's loan, he's under contract through this season. So it's unless you find somebody, and you probably can, to take Edwin off your hands. Right now, it is Edwin taking up one of those 3 spots. And right now, once again, you're 3-3. Almiron, Latelat, Miranchuk. Those are your 3 DPs. Then you've got Edwin as one of your U22s as of September. And then you have so you have 2 slots available coming in to the season. But then you had the transaction that you had to knock one of those spots away. So you sit there and it's like Atlanta United U22s. And so Baez would be a U22 and Thomas Jakob would be a U22. So if the Baez rumor that we've been talking about last week and a half or so Mosqueda is one of your U22s. Thomas Jakob is a U22. Elias Baez would be a U22. Does the moving of Sliech help you sign Baez? That would, but like it's not the same when it comes to position. But does that help free things up when it comes to signing Baez and have him be your third U22? Don't know. So that's kind of where we are. So Thomas Jakob, Edwin Mosqueda, and if you piece things together, you're kind of looking at the idea of maybe Elias Baez. Like I said, after the initial reports on Elias Baez, haven't heard anything like this week. So that's kind of where we are with Elias Baez, where the U22s are, with Bart Sliech is, all the things. Yeah, and Baez is specifically a left back. So Baez specifically a left back. I think 58 of the 60 matches he's played as a professional, he's had as a left back. So that's kind of where we are with that. And then remember, if someone in South America is interested in Edwin Mosqueda and taking him off your hands, that's also a possibility too. So I guess that's where we are. Rather elongated opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at the Morning Espresso with Jason. And so you can subscribe to that. You can go to soccerdownhere.net and subscribe to the newsletter. You can get it in newsletter form. You can listen to it in audio form. You can watch it in video form. Comes on before us to kind of set your day. And we get to kind of explode the day and just kind of sit there and put toothpaste in the mailbox and slam the mailbox and then run the other direction. That's kind of where we are. Okay. I have filibustered somewhat, but I'm ready to talk. I'm ready to talk Crew. I feel every time I just say Crew, I feel like the longest yard. Crew! You know, one of those, Ed Lauder yelling at Burt Reynolds. Sorry, that's a dated reference. It's the original movie. It's not the new one that Adam Sandler destroyed. It's the original. We're bringing our buddy Chris Doran to talk everything Crew. How you doing, brother?
Good to see you, John. I love the reference. That's perfect. I was going to do a Zsa Zsa Gabor reference, if that means anything to you.
Absolutely, it does, darling. You know, that is just how it goes with the Crew.
Was she married 8 times? Because I feel like at least one of her marriages lasted just as long as Wilfried Nancy's stint with Celtic.
Bang! All right, I'm checking. I'm trying to figure out the Gabor sisters and how many marriages we have here. Apparently, Zsa Zsa, darling. Let's see. Born in Budapest, in Austria-Hungary in 1917. Died at the age of 99. Holy crap, 3, 6, 9 marriages.
Yeah.
Wow. 6 years, 5 years to Conrad Hilton, 5 years George Sanders, 4 years Herbert Huttner, year to Joshua Cosden Jr., year to Jack Ryan. I don't know if it was that Jack Ryan.
I don't think it's that Jack Ryan.
Michael O'Hara for 6 years, had a marriage annulled in 1983, and then wrapped up with Frederick Prinz von Anhalt. I remember that one from 86. And so she was married to him for like 30 years.
So no 33-day marriages.
No, but 30. It's like 9 marriages. Man, but I don't know. This Felipe de Alba annulment might have been 30 days, actually. And see, now you got me thinking about it here. Okay, hang on. Ooh. Oh, okay. So the Felipe de Alba marriage with Zsa Zsa Gabor was annulled the next day.
Thank you. That's terrific stuff.
Oh, that's fantastic. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm great. Nice to see you, John. Thanks for having me on the show.
A couple of things that we wanted to get into. Obviously, I needed to consult my local Columbus Oracle about Wilfried Nancy. I wanted to get into Wilfried. I wanted to get into Rydstrom. I wanted to get into training camp, which is coming up around the corner, on season, off season, all the things. So what's the vibe been like in Columbus after Nancy got screwed?
I mean, I haven't really stepped into the waters too much. Social media is really where you see most of the activity, and there's just there's literally and figuratively a sea dividing the passionate Celtic fan base and a Columbus Crew MLS fan base that understands what Wilfried has been able to do in the last 5 years in Major League Soccer. So, on the one hand, I don't want to talk about it. On the other hand, I can't help but I don't know, get emotionally involved, at least on my walks every day, in debating what went wrong there. And I think it was just a series of things that was never going to sort itself out in the short term, and everyone got impatient and pulled the plug on it.
I mean, it's what we have been focusing on when it comes to the idea is that you have a league in the SPFL, and the responses on the media that is social from those fans over there. Oh, MLS, you can't compete with SPFL and Scotland and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, bro, dial it back about 19 notches. You need to come back to reality and we'll talk. But the idea that Nancy couldn't handle the SPFL. He could, excuse me, what? He couldn't handle the SPFL. It's just the hubris at times drives you crazy about stuff like this when you don't want to understand what is going on.
Yeah, I think you're right. I will say, and I don't know when the last time was that you had to pay for a ticket to get into a soccer game. I have to sometimes remind myself that I don't devote a part of my household budget to season tickets. I get to see all the games on a media pass, and those people who dedicate a part of their annual budget to purchasing tickets and supporting their team are entitled to a certain, I think, sense of ownership. Maybe they claim too much, but I think they're entitled to this feedback that the club has gotten that, hey, this is not working out. This is not working out. And we're growing increasingly tired of watching these results. To a certain point, I think there have to be smart, principled people in leadership who say, I understand, I get it, but we've made a decision here that we actually think is going to work long term. So you got to work with us a little bit. I just feel like after 8 games and 6 losses, they either someone chickened out, or they truly realized that it wasn't going to get better anytime soon. Or, to be honest with you, we're going into the January trade window. They're not going to be able to find the talent or pay the talent to make Wilfried's system work. So, the flip side is, I don't know who's in Wilfried's ear. He's taking this job mid-season. They're coming off of Martin's success in a stretch of 7 or 8 games as an interim coach. I mean, if I'm a decision maker, and I know this is hindsight, I don't let Wilfried near the building until Martin starts to lose some games. And you throw the whole kitchen sink at Martin and say, look, stick with us through June. And Wilfried will pay you for 6 months to sit on the sideline, and we'll make this switch in the summer. That may have been the play for everybody that would have come out a little bit differently. But I really, again, I don't know all the inner workings. I do feel bad for the season ticket holders at Celtic because I do think they're entitled to a certain amount of feedback that they can offer that's legit. I also have come to learn a little bit more about the Celtic, the firm rivalry, the Celtic Rangers.
Oh, old firm.
Yeah, the way they essentially own Scottish Premier League soccer. And, it's ingrained in the households. If my wife and I got up and moved to Kansas City, I'd become a Sporting Kansas City fan in a heartbeat. I still love the crew, but, want to support my home team. For those folks who, have been in Glasgow forever, and a whole line of family members who have similarly been in that position, you're taught about the Protestants and Catholics. You're taught about, you're taught about the politics of it all. You're taught about the two teams in a way that, I don't know that we really get that here. You can equate it to maybe you can equate it to the dog pound in Cleveland, NFL teams, I'm thinking. And I don't know much about the NFL, but in terms of fan bases, there are guys that have passed on family season tickets for decades. But it's not quite the same here. And so I grant the passion a little bit of leeway for Celtic fans.
I look at what we were staring at with the front office. I don't know if we will ever get the answer to this question. I don't know if Wilfried would, talk out of school or anything like that. But what did they tell you going in?
Yeah.
Did they say, okay, we'll be patient with you. We understand you're coming in medias res. You can have a couple of windows here. I mean, dude didn't even get a window. It's like Bob Bradley at Swansea, where Bradley got the tablecloth pulled out from under him and all the glassware goes everywhere. I mean, it was just, I'd love to know what they told him going in. Hey, we'll give you A, B, C, D, or E. And then did they just sit there and go, nah, this ain't working, buyer's remorse or whatever?
That's a really good point. And I agree with you. I don't think Wilfried's going to be the guy who's going to breach any of that presumed secrecy behind closed doors. I don't know how often you've worked with boards of directors, but I think that's also a complication too. You have some people around the table who are in your camp and some people who will never be in your camp. That's a real tough scenario to deal with. So all in all, a tough thing. But I think you and I, John, can both agree that Wilfried and his staff are going to land on their feet at some point, and it may be as soon as another 2 months. We got a couple teams that maybe in some league are going to be relegated come May or June. and they say, let's make the coaching switch now, and then let's go into the summer and find the right players.
And Jason came up with this idea, and I wish that Bowley Clear Lake had been a little more patient, and I mean that by like a day or two. Gary O'Neill is going to be the new head coach at Strasbourg. I would have loved, and when Jason brought this up, I'm like, that's the play.
Wow.
Wilfried Nancy to Strasbourg while they were, because if Liam Rosenior going to Chelsea from Strasbourg, that meant that Strasbourg was open. You take Wilfried and put him at Strasbourg. I think that would have been epic. And I'm like,
Wow.
Jason, that would have been great. But that's like Gary O'Neill's going in, and you're like, Gary O'Neill, really? But no, that would have been the thing that would have triggered. And you're like, yeah, that would have been great.
Yeah. Well, it would have put to rest the debate over whether or not Wilfried is prepared for that kind of assignment, which I think he is, by the way. And I just think that it was just a trash fire of a lot of different circumstances that were out of his control.
And it's still on fire, by the way. It's like, it's almost, to say it's a dumpster fire is almost an insult to dumpsters at this point.
Yeah. I love that.
So because of the absence of Wilfried Nancy heading to Celtic, that meant that Columbus ends up getting a new man in charge. And it's I think about a week old now that Henrik Rydstrom comes over from hit me real quick. It's like, where's he?
From Sweden.
Thank you. Yes, that country. So you end up with Henrik Rydstrom coming over from Malmö. And so you get Rydstrom coming in. What's the early returns on Rydstrom dropping by?
Oh, enthusiastic. General manager Issa Tall, I think, took his time with this one. We had talked to him right after the third game against Cincinnati, and I had lunch with him actually, and asked him, "Are you getting interest from around the world?" Because the whole idea behind Columbus being what it is that the extension is that it becomes a worldwide brand in soccer. And Issa didn't even hesitate. Absolutely. Word from around the world, from agents mostly, with clients who are interested. And so I don't think I think we're going to find out. We haven't had the introductory press conference yet, but I think we're going to find out that this was probably something that was in the behind the curtains going on for a bit. I don't think Rydstrom just dropped in on October 30th or November 7th and said, "Hey, this sounds like a good idea." I think he's been on the radar for a while. Issa told us that as much, that the search had been going on because Wilfried had been flirting with the possibility of leaving, or had been given some interest from other clubs, I should say. I don't know that he was flirting with leaving. So general manager Issa Tall went to work, months ago on this. But Henrik comes in with an immediate and very local history, not local, but recent history of championships. He's won the league a couple of times. He's not coached outside of Sweden, which is very interesting to me. But I think he's a guy who will take a roster that has a dozen players who have recent history in championships in the MLS Cup in 23 and Leagues Cup last year, plus Wasim Abu Ali, our recently signed designated player up front, who has recent history in 2 Egyptian Premier League banners, as well as a scoring title in that league. And you got a pretty high caliber mix from the coaching staff on down. And I'm really enthusiastic about that. And candidly, I'm kind of excited about something new. I'm kind of excited about. I've watched a little bit of tape, and thanks to the Crew supporters who have posted tape of the way Henrik's teams have played. A little bit of 4 in the back. We've been playing 3 in the back for a while, but the winger's getting forward, and I am confident that if you look at our roster right now, and I know ads are coming, but our roster right now is equipped to play 4 in the back and get wingers forward. And that's kind of exciting to me.
Because what you don't want is that 180-degree switch that we've seen in other places where if you've got a system and it has certain characteristics, you want somebody that can be, for lack of a better phrase, Nancy adjacent. And
yes.
And so it's like you take what you know, what you've seen and what you know, and if somebody can sit there and go, yeah, I do that, but here's my little twist on it, instead of sitting there and going, well, no, I believe in low block, and we're just going to put 19 behind the ball, kind of a thing. So you want somebody that can kind of twist what you've had and add to it, as opposed to pulling away from it and being completely different with the roster that you got.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think he's going to be. I have come to this conclusion that he might be a little overwhelmed with the level of talent the Crew roster's got, in the sense that Wilfried did stay close to his principle that he wanted his players to be able to play in 2 spots minimum on the field. It's one of the reasons why we got away with Sean Zawatsky as a center back.
Yeah.
And in that thinking, we developed players. I didn't. Wilfried Nancy and his staff did develop players that have a toolbox that's pretty broad. In that, then you have tactical flexibility. Does that mean you come out with 3 in the back in one game and 4 in the back in the other? I don't really know. I don't know if Henrik's going to do that. I think what you do know is that when you put Steven Moreira at outside right back in a 4-back system, you can count on him getting forward. And just coaching him in the moments when it's time to do that, you're going to get a lot of quality. So that's just an example, but I'm really positive, at least upbeat about what we could potentially see from the Crew this year.
You mentioned a healthy Wessam Abu Ali. There's also a recent move with Sekou Bangura coming in from Hapoel Irani Kiryat Shmona.
Wow, nicely done.
It took me a minute. I got the last part, and it's like, okay, how do I run this together? And so biggest thing is just get it all together and slur it and work your way through. Obviously, Darlington retires. Options declined on Derek Jones, Lassie Lapalainen, Abraham Romero, and Net was out of contract. So there isn't a whole lot of absences that you have to fill, and you're getting some back with a healthy Ali. What is the rest of the makeup? You know that moves are coming in, but right now it seems like a fairly stable roster right now.
Oh, it's extremely stable. Yeah. And it's guys who've been together. And, I think that's probably the one regret that we all had about Wilfried leaving now, as opposed to maybe the end of 26. And that was, man, you're going to have these guys together through 26, and it's going to be extraordinary. But unfortunately, that wasn't the thing that came to pass. I think Issa, Mark Nichols, the technical, I'm going to mess up his title.
Grand Exalted Poobah.
Yeah, one of the leadership group, if you will.
Yeah.
I think leadership has done an extraordinary job of building this roster. And I think in large part it was with Wilfried's blessing, but I think also the leadership said, no, this is a player that fits the principles of Columbus Crew soccer. You got the second team and the academy all playing the same way. We want to see more of this, and that's what we're going to sign. So through the end of this year, we've got the Diego Rossi. You've got Wessam Abu Ali for a couple of years. Max Arfsten's on a new contract. Patrick Schulte signed a big one after 23. Doesn't mean that these guys can't leave, but it does give you some assurances. And in that, we're also going to enjoy, I think, an influx of talent from the academy. One of the things that was a big talking point at the start of 25 was that there is a cluster of young players sitting in the academy, sometimes playing for Crew 2, who are representing the national team on the youth national team level, who are almost ready, but not just yet. And so they'd train with the first team. Yeah, they dressed a couple times with the first team, but they didn't get a lot of first team minutes or any at all. Those guys in the next year are going to flood the roster. And, whether you make money on selling them or you keep them as homegrowns within the club is the decision that Issa is going to have to make. But this is a club set up for success right now. It is a championship caliber roster, in my opinion. And I think they've done a wonderful job with the coaching choice of Rydstrom coming in.
So, and if I've missed anybody, feel free to add to the list. Tristan Brown, Taha Habrun, Stas Lapkis. Who else is on the table that I'm missing?
you hit Tristan. We got Chase Davis or Chase Adams is probably the biggest profile player coming out. We also have a center back who's playing for the academy, who featured for Crew 2 in the Open Cup, was exceptional. The first team's going to play the Open Cup this year, which I'm thrilled about. Love the tournament and love knowing that the first team's back in that. So, I think there are going to be decisions that'll have to be made. I think Rydstrom's going to have plenty of time to assess the talent. He's got guys like Federico Higuain, who's coaching Crew 2, and Josh Williams, the assistant, who are going to be in his ear about who's ready and who's not. And the club's set up for some really great years ahead. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. By the way, John, I want to make sure you're leaving time in our conversation to talk about the Indiana football team coming to your great city this week. So make sure there's plenty of time for that.
Absolutely. So when does training camp kick in?
Good Lord, I don't know, John. I haven't met the new coach yet, but I imagine it's going to be in the next 3 weeks.
Okay, because I didn't know if there were toe touchies and elastic stretchy moves and things that were going to be done in near form or not. I was just trying to figure out timetables as to when you get acquainted.
Well, for the first time we're not playing in CONCACAF for the first time in a couple of years. So that does not necessarily require that the guys are in any sooner than normal. I do know we're doing a Florida swing and a California swing. If those reports back in the fall have stayed in place, that's what they'll be doing for spring break or for the preseason. Now we do have the bubble. We have historic Crew Stadium, the first soccer specific stadium in the United States, is still obviously in place. Synthetic turf in that stadium. And we put a bubble up during the winter time, and that's where the first team will spend a few days at the start after physicals are done, and then
home of your Columbus Aviators, by the way.
Yes, thank you, God, good for you. and then the guys will head out on their training path before the season starts.
I got to get my Columbus Aviators gear to add to the stacks here and drive the boss crazy. It's like, who are they? It's like
that's funny.
That's the league they're in. Well, I mean, this is your Vegas Vipers, so I mean, it's me in the obscure. I'm like the Saint. What is it? The St. Jude of sports gear. It's like
do you get shipments every week?
I wish. I wait. What I do is I wait until it goes on special. So I'll buy it a year late, or I'll buy it. And so it's like 75% off, 80% off, because then I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. You don't like that design? You're changing your design? I'll take the gear at 80% off. If I can buy something that's listed at $100, if I can buy it for 20 and wear it,
oh my gosh,
do that.
That is a frugal sports fan right there.
Well, it's a frugal sports fan that ends up buying in bulk and ends up with stacks of gear that go 19 feet high.
Right.
Okay, so we'll go ahead. We'll go ahead and discuss. So, are you going to? Where are you going to be watching Indiana football, sir?
In the next room, next to my beautiful wife. It'll be. We flirted with the idea going down. It's only like an 8.5 or 9 hour drive from Columbus. But to be honest with you, the coverage. We don't have the FOMO disease, fear of missing out.
Right.
We don't. We're too old to suffer from that. There are too many other things to be worried about. So we don't mind missing out on that. We have family members who will be down there. Certainly a lot of friends who are going to fill Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So I think it'll be great to watch it on TV. The coverage is always extraordinary, as you well know. And my wife is a big fan of the stories surrounding the players. And so it's always nice from week to week to see what they've uncovered. We've all heard, I think we've all heard the stories about Mendoza. We've all heard the stories about Mendoza's family, Kurt Signetti, how he came to IU. The Google Me quote has just gone absolutely over the top. We've heard enough of it. Of course, network television won't agree to that. But the other stories about linebackers and running backs and how it is that they came to settle on a school in Bloomington, Indiana that has never been known for football, not for 50 years. Those are the stories that we love to see. And with all due respect, we'll also watch the stories from the opposing team too, just because they're so well done.
Yeah, and the opposing team, whatever. But I will add this: if you've never listened to Don Fisher,
yeah,
Institution, and I mean this in the most fantastic. I think he's like 53 years of calling IU sports.
Yeah.
Absolute like legend upon legend upon legend. And so if you have the opportunity to just kind of tune that in, like if you were to mute the other devices and you listened to IU radio, you have to listen to the locals. You really do.
That's a really great plug. Don is a terrific guy. He's extremely gifted in what he does. Obviously, part of the gift is having been a steady part of the broadcast team for so long. Calls basketball and football. On some days has been known to call both teams, given the recent success of the football team. There was a time in Bloomington when football season would end, in early November, and that was it. And I'm not exaggerating. Not only did I go there as an undergrad, but I also lived in Bloomington for 30 years. And everything would stop. And it was kind of a downer, but when you think about it, you went into the season knowing you were going to play 3 knockoffs in the early part of the year. And then you were going to be faced with Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, and it was just going to be an 0-4 stretch. My freshman year was the last year that Lee Corso coached.
Oh, wow.
And I was living in Briscoe Quad right next to Memorial Stadium on the day he was fired. And it was a really sad day because he had some time to put his mark on the program. And he was an incredibly charismatic guy, as you can imagine. Carried that over into television, and I'm really happy for him that he was able to extend his career in that way.
And for the record, and I'm sitting here counting just because of one of the other versions of me, and I've counted half a dozen student athletes from the state of Georgia who are on this roster, and that makes 7 now as I get into the 40s. But I mean, you're talking about invading the state of Georgia, the number 3 ranked state in the country when it comes to high school football athletes to the next level. So you're looking at double digits. I'm looking at all these Georgia guys that are playing for IU, and it's like never daunted. There you go. IU. I'm loving it.
Thanks for the plug.
That's what we're here for. What are you up to these days before you get into training camp and probably going to Florida and California and hanging out with folks?
Well, I'd like to be able to do that. I think, a lot has to be sorted out in terms of the roster. And so we're keeping track of what moves are being made. I would imagine that Henrik Rydstrom has got his thumb on the scale now. In terms of what he has reviewed on Columbus Crew tape and what he believes he's going to need to be successful this year. So we'll watch to see what comes from the front office on decisions with talent. I am anticipating, if not by Friday, perhaps early next week, the introductory press conference. We'll get to hear Rydstrom talk about, the process, how he ended up in Columbus, and what he expects to be able to accomplish. I think the guys turned around really quickly. One of the benefits, honestly, of Wilfried Nancy not being in Celtic is the fact that we don't have to worry about losing any players from this roster in the January window.
Steven Marrero sitting there at Old Firm. They had the shot of him up in the crowd.
Bro, I was like, my heart was in my throat when I saw that. I could not believe it, man. And he was clearly not supposed to be seen there, but they figured it out. That was really impressive stuff. So, anyway, we got the World Cup this year. We got guys vying for men's national team positions. Max Arfston, Patrick Schulte, Sean Sawatsky could get another look. We're going to keep an eye on Aiden Morris and Sebastian Berhalter because those guys are academy kids who would love to see end up with Mauricio Pochettino. On the side, you've got Steven Marrero, who's going to play with Cape Verde. We would certainly expect. And so there's a lot. You got the Verde. There you go. That's sharp. Good Lord. Look at you. It's signed.
No, that's the geography jersey.
Oh yeah. Little tiny island nation, as they say.
Yes. And so, yeah, when Cabo Verde came online and they could sell these things, I was like, yep, jumping on that. So there you go. Yep.
That's fantastic. So, one of the things that Issa Tall did before he became a general manager, before he worked in the league, was he worked with FIFA. And our general manager at that time was, among other things, helping to arrange home bases for teams that went to the World Cup. So he is very much aware of what FIFA looks for when teams are shopping for a home base in the country that's hosting the World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
And so while he's building our roster and he's found our head coach, one of the things he's also working on with his team is making sure Columbus is presented in the most desirable way to meet FIFA's needs and get a club here in Columbus during the World Cup as a home base.
Yep.
And so that's a real exciting time for us, because Columbus, among other things, does a really nice job of welcoming and putting their arms around movements or people or ideas that make perfect sense. And the soccer community will absolutely do that to whatever team ends up in Columbus during the summer.
Can't wait. As always, my friend, it's great to see you. Great to catch up and get our progress reports. I felt like I needed a local oracle so I could vent my spleen again when it came to Wilfried getting screwed. And gave me the chance to get an update on Rydstrom and everything else that's going on up there. You can come and crash at any time, and we can talk about how many marriages the Gabor sisters have had.
I'm so sorry we led with that.
Whatever. Look, it's a morning show. Who cares? So we found out that one marriage lasted 1 day and got annulled of her 9. That's fantastic. So technically 8, but she was married 9 times. You're the man. Go get your breakfast. We'll catch up with you soon, my friend. Don't be a stranger.
Thank you, John. Have a great week.
All right, there goes Chris Doran, play-by-play voice of your Columbus Crew. Breaking down the marriages of Zsa Gabor. Did not have that on the bingo card, but that's fantastic. 9 marriages, 8 that lasted, 1 that got annulled after a day. So great to get the background on Rydstrom. Great to get the background on Wilfried Nancy. And David, to your question, I think it's going to be Falcons and United. David is like, which will collectively fare better? Is it going to be Crew and Browns or Falcons and United? I think it's going to be the Falcons and United. So right now, let me say hi to everybody. Dylan Butler, let me check my email and see if the busiest man in the Northeast can come and hang out with us. I think we're okay. So I think we're good. We'll talk about all the other transactions and stuff that's going on in Major League Soccer with Dylan coming up here in just a little bit. But I got to say hi to everybody and say hi to everybody who's in. So morning, David. Let's see. Morning, Ricky, as you guys are discussing everything that's going on in and around Atlanta United. And let's see who else is in this morning. So right now, just in the Twitch pitch, it's Ricky and David, although I know that there are a lot more of you that are hanging out with us this morning. Don't be a stranger. Have the conversation in the Twitch pitch. And that's what it's there for, to catch up with everybody else that's our plus ones and our A-listers, and having conversations and a Q&A going back and forth as we go. So let's see. David, the Argentine, like I said, you have the pending U22 with Thomas Jakob. And so it's Thomas Jakob, Edwin Mosqueda, who's out on loan, and that third U22 slot, which I think would be Baez if that does in fact happen. So that's kind of where we are with all of that. All right, so we got AFCON to talk about. That'll be coming up after 10:30, and so it'll be around 11 o'clock when we get to catch up with AFCON and all the morning news. So Dylan's set to join us here in a little bit, but then once again, Rabeih Krayem, who is vice chair of the Solomon Kings franchise in the new OFC Pro League, Oceania Football Confederation. They are doing their own league, 8 teams, kicking off next weekend. And so we're going to catch up with as many teams as we can before kickoff, and then we'll do continual updates with them in this league, in this growing part of the planet. And it was interesting to talk to Robbie about the Solomon Islands and how they're trying to grow, and they want to have things happen by 2034, much like our friends from the Marshall Islands. And you can get the Marshall Islands scarf, by the way, and you can catch up with all of our friends at the Marshall Islands. Let me see if I can get my sponsor read. Here we go. Know about our relationship with the last country on the planet trying to start a national team. You can support them by visiting their website, pick up some of their gear, including the scarf with our SDH logo on it, which is right there. That's the new one, because it's got the new logo attached to it. And you can get it through them. You want to get it from us, reach out to me, make it happen. I've got a couple more here in the office, and then I know I have to reorder. And you check out the site, you might notice a familiar face in one of the promos. That's our own Maddie Cruz. Nothing like Maddie when she was helping us out modeling the Marshall Islands scarf. And this is what Growing the Game Everywhere really looks like. You've got our Maddie Cruz modeling Marshall Islands Soccer Federation scarves on their website. So buy the gear, help them out, help them keep the lights on, and help them continue to grow the game. So once again, you thank our friends of the Marshall Islands. A lot parallels the Solomon Islands in their run as they want to try and chase after World Cup status and World Cup places come 2034. So very, very cool stuff from them. So the rest of the rundown today, Dylan Butler will discuss everything Major League Soccer. And we do have some ins and outs and folks that are dropping by, and we have discussions. Like I said, Messi and friends seem to be sorting out their stuff that's going on. And we have all the player transactions that are there. Michael Bradley has taken the mantle officially, because when you have a press conference, that's official. You get to talk about stuff. Michael Bradley now in charge of Red Bulls, and so we bring in our buddy Dylan Butler, and we're going to find out what's going on in Dylan's mind on a Wall Pass Wednesday. How are you, sir?
I am well. How are you?
Oh, one foot in front of the other, trying to look like I know what I'm doing. Anyway, you're dressed for conditions, I imagine, because aren't you guys getting smashed by snow?
We had snow. I think actually it's about to have a little bit of a warm up, maybe. I'm not sure.
Okay. So Lloyd Lindsay Young has not reached out to you and said,
it's a flashback right there.
Oh, I mean, Staten Island, hello. You got to do the big hello kind of bit.
Right.
Dylan Butler Estates, one of those kind of things. And they would always do shout outs in the tri-state, Hartford, come up with small towns and things like that. For those of us that had WOR growing up, when it was only just when they moved from the 2 W's to the 1 W, that was big for us.
At 5 o'clock, you'd have WWF wrestling on right? On Saturdays?
Absolutely, you would. And you'd have was it Roland Young, Russ Salzberg?
Yeah.
Doing sports with all of his Lou Carnesecca sweaters. It's like
yes,
you could fit 2 Lou Carnesecas into one Russ Salzberg. And so I mean that was WOR growing up when we had cable and we could see what was going on in New York.
So it's funny. I didn't. Sorry. So to that point,
yes,
I didn't have cable in Queens, but WOR allowed me to watch Ranger games, at least the road games. So like I could never watch a home game unless like I remember one time I went to like a Knights of Columbus and they had some feed or something. I don't even know. But outside of that, just the road games were on WOR. So I was able to watch them then. I think it was before Sam and JD. It was like Sam and Phil Esposito. So
oh wow, yeah.
Espo is like going off on some rant, and Sam Rosen joked he would always say, like, I would always try to tell Phil, here's who this player is, and he would always try to give him the homework, and he would never do it. Like he wouldn't know who any of the players were. But
look at that guy over there. What's he doing?
But he obviously knew the sport. So he knew, he didn't know who the guy was, but he knew where he should be on the ice and all that kind of fun stuff. So
what's he doing out? What's he doing out? What's that kind of check? Literally he's just yelling at it's like what's that guy doing? Instead of actually mentioning him by name, it's like, what's that guy doing? And so you end up with those kind of conversations with Espo and Sam Rosen in the booth. Michael Bradley officially official, and the press conference happened, so obviously he is official. So now he says, I guess, saying all the right things. Now he's the head coach at Red Bulls. What are you anticipating from them coming into 26?
I think they're one of those that you keep an eye on. I think there's a lot of intrigue. I don't, you can't say necessarily who they're going to bring in or what they're looking at. I mean, they didn't get into those kind of specifics, but we talk about it all the time and the importance of the press conference and winning the press conference, right? And I thought Michael Bradley did that. I think it was over an hour or around an hour, and he was just answering question after question. He did so insightfully and thoughtfully, as he always has answered questions in his playing career. He did say, though, he said, listen, we're still going, we're going to press, and we want to play the game fast, but we want to now have maybe some better, or I think he said creative ideas when we have the ball. So, I think it's a combination now, because look, obviously, if they win the ball and they're third and they hoof it up to midfield, like there's going to be at times where, teams aren't going to press them. So now they've got to be on the ball. And, in the past years, they haven't really necessarily been comfortable with that. It was more, I don't know, almost high school soccer, right? Like hoof it up to the other 18 and get the goal as soon as you can get it, right? But he said they want to be a little bit more creative with the ball. And one thing is for certain, and the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And I was covering pretty closely as like a beat writer the Bob Bradley days with the then Metro Stars, but he is his father's son, so he's going to put the work in. That's already been the case where he's stayed later. He's turned the lights off at the facility, so he's when he puts his mind to it, he's determined. That is for that's the Bradley trait, that determination. So I think he's determined to make this work, and because of that, I think you give him the respect to kind of see how this is gonna play out.
Yeah, Justin Che came in from Brøndby. Cade Cowell comes in from Chivas. Nelwyn Benedetti comes in from Estudiantes. All this was before Christmas, and now that you've got Michael Bradley there, I think that a lot of folks will look at what he did last season in Next Pro and go, and they might kind of sit back a little bit and go, well, damn, okay, that's kind of making a statement quickly. How much? How many? Or I'm trying to figure out my right pronoun here. When it comes to Red Bulls 2, how much of a youth movement are you anticipating working?
Like a graduating up into the first
team?
Yeah. It's a good question. I'm not.
You get diplomas and walk across the stage and work your way to Harrison. I mean, what are you thinking here?
I'm not sure, but certainly, look, it's been. I feel like that's part and parcel to maybe even energy drink soccer in general, because you see it, down the turnpike in 95 with Philly, right? Like they're big into that, and Red Bull, was maybe the prototype before that Philly wanted to emulate to do things like that. So I don't have like a number or a percentage or specific names that would necessarily come up, but one thing that we do know is he's comfortable, or he knows those players well, right? He's put the work in there. And to your earlier point, and I think he even said it in his press conference, the success that he had there, I think maybe elevated him to this position, maybe even quicker than he thought it would be.
Yeah.
But, he's up for it for sure. And I think even Julian de Guzman said that too, where, he does his thing, Bradley, with Red Bull 2, but, so many things have to happen. Obviously, for him to get the job, you've got to part ways with somebody who had the job and all those kind of things. And, I think his success timing with the team missing the postseason for the first time in 15 years and all that kind of stuff. Like, I think the chips fell the right way for Michael Bradley to get this position.
Yeah. Coronel out, Kyle Duncan out, Ofori out, options declined. Peter Stroud traded to Minnesota United. Lewis Morgan traded to San Diego. Sean Neal is traded to DC, and then Alexander Hack had a mutual contract termination. They were sitting across each other from the table, I guess, and it was like, no, it's you. It's not you. It's me. And they broke up.
We can still be friends.
Yeah, we can still be friends. Relationship status, it's complicated. On the Facebook. So I mean, that's we mentioned who's in and we mentioned who's out. I mean, that sounds like that's a lot of work that you've got to put in to construct this roster coming into 26. I mean, to our point about graduation, I don't know, maybe if that fills in some spots. Are you looking for more from Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting, who I think it took a while for his engine to turn over, but when it did, you were getting what you were looking for from that. And I know that Emil Forsberg was pissed off at the end of the season last year about, lack of interaction or what have you. And I mean, there's some openings here for Red Bulls to do some damage and I think work their way back into the playoff picture, obviously.
Yeah, and I think they have some flexibility too in terms of, I believe, right, if I'm not mistaken, they have another DP they could sign or do the U22 route, but they do have some ability to make a splash. I would say they do need some help on the wings, certainly. Morgan was so good when he was healthy, but he wasn't healthy a lot.
Right.
The other players they had to fill in didn't really get the job done there. So, yeah, there's work to do, certainly. And listen, you've got two kind of neophytes in a way, right? Leading the charge in De Guzman and Bradley. So not unfamiliar, certainly, with the league. But now these are two guys who are rookies again, right? So, I think, again, the eyes are on the Red Bulls and kind of seeing how they, what's his first big signing, I think is a good question, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that'll maybe determine how things go forward.
Yeah. When it comes to your circles of the folks that you talk to and all this kind of stuff, what is their vibe on Messi and friends? Are they? Is there the anti-Heron bias? What's the feedback that you get on how they're operating here in Major League Soccer?
No, I mean, I don't think.
Are they tired of it? Do you get people sitting there and goes, "Oh, they really only had 3 DPs?" That kind of stuff.
I mean, you hear the, you hear that, but I think generally it's an excitement because you wanna elevate the league, you want to elevate the playing in the league and the players in the league. And look, if Miami's doing that and they're doing it creatively, then God bless them, right? Join the fray or get out of the way.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, and I think that there are those that will sit there and they're just they're getting a like Messi and friends fatigue. And then there are those that will sit there and it's like, well, the Moss brothers are challenging the rest of Major League Soccer to, it's like, match us or, get left in the wake of the boat. It's
And they've too, you look at their off season, and last week we were praising the Galaxy, and that was just before the news of, unfortunately,
Ricky Pooch.
another season-ending surgery for Ricky Pooch. Feel terrible for him. But we were praising the Galaxy's off season, and Miami, man, they're crushing it as well, right? So, they're going to, I think, start the season. And again, look, obviously the two the Barca boys aren't going to be there, but I would argue that they are a better team, kind of going in than they were that ended last season. So because of the moves that they are making, and obviously they're, the rumor mill and Fabrizio Romano and Tom Bogert, like, you're seeing everybody linked, with the club. And I think it's, it all obviously starts, and the center of it all is Messi. But like, you get a city like Miami, and you get a player like Messi, right? Like, who wouldn't want to go, right? Like, so it makes sense.
No, it's like, so you want to play with Messi, or you want to come and play with Messi? Well, here's your salary number. Okay,
Yeah, no offense to Cincinnati, but it's not like it's like, it's Cincinnati and Messi. It's Miami and Messi. So, it's kind of like the peanut butter and the chocolate, putting them together. So
it's the Reese's of Major League Soccer.
Right.
You're going because off season so far, obviously, it's Jordi Alba retired, which was the shocker in the bunch. Then you had Busquets retire, and that was that was kind of something that came down the pike. Then Fafa Pico option decline. Ryan Saylor out of contract. Sheloway Gant loan expires. William Yarborough, who picked up a medal for sitting on the bench. He ends up getting a medal, and then he ends up going to Toronto to back up Luka Gavrin. That came out this week. So this season in the off, you get Sergio Reguilon on a free, which is you sit there and it's like, well, okay. So hey, Sergio, you want to come and play with Messi?
They got it for a couple of signed Messi jerseys.
Basically, yeah, I think so. Facundo Mura comes in on a free. Dane St. Clair is officially official. And then you end up with Tadeo Allende, it looks like, that they've figured out a way to make that happen from Celta de Vigo. And we know what Allende was to this offense late in the year specifically.
And also you thought you lost. I think you ended the last season like you knew the guys who retired, and you were like, yeah, Suarez is gone too.
Yeah, I mean, coming back.
He's back. Yeah.
Apparently, they found a leg replacement surgeon, and they've given him bionic knees or something, and they have figured out, and Javier Mascherano figured out how to manage minutes and time with Suarez, and then late in the year, when you needed to have that energy up top to press. It was Silvetti, it was Allende, and it was like send the youngins up there and create turnovers. And who's laying back in that second level? Oh, that Messi guy. And then you can create quickly. You've got short fields. You don't have to worry about it. Basically, it was almost Red Bullsian in nature, where you press the hell out of them, you freak them out, you get possession, and it's in the attacking third basically. And all you've got to do is say, "Yo, Leo, be clinical. You see the open guy? You might want to do something with that." And they did, and they crushed it in that setup. And so it looks like they've got Allende figured out. And then it looks like they might be bringing in Mikael, who we know from his time when he was developing with Houston Dynamo. Houston, yeah. And so now he could be coming back. And it's like sitting there. Literally, it's almost like, going to what, Six Flags Great Adventure. And it's like, you want to ride the Messi ride? Okay. Front of the line, that kind of.
Well, too, it seems it's their, intentions are very clear. Like, this is about, winning the CONCACAF Champions Cup, right? Mm-hmm. Like, yes, they're going to compete and have a good chance to win every trophy that they're playing for this year. But just like this past year, it was very much, we already had the Shield, great, fine. We won Leagues Cup, great, fine. We're going for the Cup this year.
Right.
They won it. And now they're like, you know what? Now we want CONCACAF Champions Cup. And I think they've assembled a team and the depth as well, where they can make that kind of a run. Look, I mean, how many competitions they play in last year? How many games? 50, 60 games, whatever they played.
4,008.
Yeah. And I think Messi had 2,000 goals in all competitions last year.
Yes,
so
that is true. Absolutely true.
Yeah, I think seeing them in the CCC, I think it'll be very, very interesting this year.
And we've got word this morning from our buddy Tommy Scoops that it looks like Nashville has signed Christian Espinosa, and he comes in as.
How do you lose them by him if you're San Jose? Oh my goodness!
Well, I could say the words John and Fisher and sit there and go, well, you guys couldn't even get the word athletics as a part of your trademark that you were chasing when you moved your team to Las Vegas. But I mean, look. San Jose loses. Oh, could you imagine what Bruce Arena is saying right now?
Nothing we can repeat here.
We could. We would just have to put the E rating on the show. I mean, you lose Christian Espinosa to Nashville, and it makes me wonder two things. A, is he being added to the mix? Or B, are the discussions that we have heard about Sam Surridge to Wolves, are they accurate? And is this insurance to go ahead and let Surridge go back to England and have it be Mukhtar and Espinosa? Or can you afford in this current cap structure? I mean, is C-Ram the Schaffelberg replacement? Or is he there in case Surridge, they get an offer they can't refuse from Wolves? Although if I'm Sam Surridge, I wouldn't want to go to Wolves.
Well, I mean, couldn't that be one of those all all the above, right?
It
Like I
could.
think when you're in one of those rooms, you're obviously like, all right, so what if this happens? What's our contingency for this? What's plan C? So I think your plan A is he's replacing Schaffelberg. No offense to Schaffelberg. I think that's an upgrade at that
Yeah, I mean,
position,
yeah, it definitely it's an offensive upgrade, no question.
right?
Yeah.
And now, I mean, look at that offense now you have, right? Like
Mhm.
him, Mukhtar, and Surridge, right? Like that's a great that's a great trio to
Mhm.
to work with there. So I think that's a huge signing for Nashville, and it's honestly a coup, right? Like I don't know if there was gambling going on in San Jose where they were like, maybe if we just let this play out, we're gonna get him for obviously it backfired. Whatever the plan was, backfired.
Yes.
For San Jose, you can't lose a player of his caliber. I've like I think it was 2 years ago, maybe I was on here with you and was touting about how underrated and how good Ryan Gauld was. And
Mhm.
I think Espinoza, and again, maybe it's the whole West Coast situation where a lot of people in the East Coast don't get a chance to see those games. But for me, he was one of the best underrated or most underrated players in the league. So huge get for Nashville. And yeah, listen, if one of those other situations occurs, they've got Espinoza, right? So if it's to join the party, if it's to replace, bottom line, you're getting, you know, one of the better players in the league for sure.
No, and there was a point when C-Ram was at Aberdeen where he wasn't getting regular minutes with Minnesota or whomever, and he was bouncing around Los Angeles, and you're going, okay. Then he goes to Aberdeen, lights it up. Jason was like, we got to bring him into Atlanta United, but that didn't work out for whatever reason. And then he goes out west and he does what he does there. And you get to add, you add him, you add Warren Madrigal from Costa Rica. You
From
add,
the family Madrigal, yeah.
yes. And you end up with two defenders in Waleji and Thomas Williams. You lose Walker Zimmerman, but you also got to take his price point and invest it in other folks because you weren't getting the minutes that you were looking for with the health issues and the time that Zimmerman
Yeah.
was having to recover last year. So BJ Callahan, and Mike Jacobs, their training camp starts this weekend. It's an interesting get. I mean, it's a no-brainer if you can pull it off. I'm just wondering how it fits in the cap structure. That's my biggest thing when it comes to, are you now front loading everything and trying to find good defenders that just fit a system, or where are you when it comes to your cap? Someone needs to ask Mike Jacobs this come the weekend, I think. Where are you, sir? Where are you, and what else can you do? Come on.
Yeah.
You're getting ready for the Triple C. Where are you with your cap space? Well, we can navigate it. We're navigating our caps as best we can, and we're bringing in quality players. And
By the way, speaking of the CCC, so I started to look at the schedule, and obviously it starts before MLS, right? So I'm thinking about editing shifts and can I do this one, or can I tell them I can't do that one because I have a basketball game or another commitment? And I've got to admit, I got caught in the reading it wrong at Vancouver FC versus Vancouver Whitecaps. I was going through it all. I'm like, this is a tough for opening match for the Whitecaps, man. All right, can I do this one on February 3rd? I'm like, I'm not sure. I gotta look. And then 20 minutes later, I was like, wait a minute, what? Oh man. I knew it was gonna. I figured that would get me at some point, but
oh yeah, and that's
two Vancouvers.
yes, the dueling Vancouvers. There's one that's different than the other, and one's in the can, and one's in MLS. And I am. You mentioned Vancouver. I'm intrigued with Whitecaps about what they can try and do for an encore with the Dylan Butler MVP Ryan Gauld. I mean, there was an initial
And knock on
concern.
wood, he's back fully,
Yes.
healthy to start the season. So
Yes, absolutely true.
though they did lose obviously Ali Ahmed, who I was touting last year, and he had a great postseason as well. I don't get the move.
Yeah.
for him personally. I hope it works out, but the playing time was going to be there. You always think about playing time leading up to World Cup, and obviously, he's become kind of a regular starter for Jesse Marsch in Canada.
Yep.
I don't see a move to a Norwich team that is battling relegation in the English Championship as a move up, not even a move sideways. So
no. Yeah, I mean, looking at that chaos, I mean, they pair you with Josh Sargent, I mean, okay. But yeah, Norwich has been in a world of hurt this year, and there's got to be more to it than we think, although I don't know what that would be.
I just hope for his case that there's like a relegation clause or something where he can get out of his contract and
get out of that ish if they get relegated.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, that to me is like, hopefully you can navigate all that nonsense. And then, but I mean, you look at the players that have exited, and when Jaden Nelson happened and he went to Austin, that one kind of shook the walls a little bit, considering what Jaden was able to do in Vancouver last year. Ali Ahmed out, Jaden Nelson out, Daniel Rios, obviously the loan's expired, O'Neill's option declined, Nicolas Chateau option declined, Max Anchor, backup keeper, his option was declined. You brought in you promoted one of your next pro defenders, and then you brought in a homegrown defender as well before Christmas. So you can kind of see what you're maybe looking to do to fill space and make sure that your roster spots, 28 through 30 can be officially official, and you're not having a whole lot go up against your cap, that kind of a thing. With the outbound to the inbound right now doesn't mesh, and I'm kind of sitting there and wondering, okay, and this is a team that's still for sale, and you wonder what they can do financially right now.
Yeah, I mean, but that said too, to get a move done, like bringing in Thomas Mueller, right? Like I give him the benefit of the doubt, like that they'll figure something out, right? So I'm interested like you are, but I'm confident. I think that they can figure something out.
Your eyebrow is not as raised as mine is.
No, it's not the people, not like The Rock. No.
Yeah, no, it is not a people's eyebrow in discussing these kinds of things. When you look at, and I'm going to go and see if there's anything else. I mean, Dallas promoted a bunch of folks. Owen Wolf, I think Owen Wolf doing his team a solid by signing a U22 deal, I think helps out Austin, considering what Austin has been doing in this offseason. I think Austin and what we're seeing with Nico Estevez, I mean, they're, like I said, when they brought in Jaden Nelson, I'm like, wow, okay. They ain't messing around, You brought
a different postseason right than last year. Last year was like splashing a lot of cash, and those moves just not working out for them.
You found a buyer for Osman Bukhari.
Yeah.
I mean, when own goal was your number 2 leading scorer at points during the season last year, it was like Brandon Vasquez own goal, and then it was Bukhari and everybody else. I mean, you found an outlet for Bukhari. Obviously, you had some options declined on some folks, and you brought in John Bell as a free agent from Seattle. Jaden Nelson, I was like, wow, okay. And then Joseph Rosales from Minnesota. Austin, for me, you got rid of some heavy cap numbers, and you're bringing in some interesting folks. I am intrigued with what I'm seeing with Austin here.
Yeah, I mean, they went down that one road, and it proved to be a dead end, right? So they just backed the truck up and let's go down this route here, and let's see if we can go this way now.
Yes, absolutely true. I am. Is there anything else like in the last week with MLSsoccer.com that has you sat there and you go, oh, okay, we'll keep an eye on that. Is there anything that has triggered thought with you in the past week?
Oh,
or are you just like, no, screw it, it was New Year's?
No, I'm slowly realizing that the nice kind of break is it's over. It's over now with I've got, it's funny because you could appreciate it because you do multiple, you wear multiple hats as well, but
yes, I do.
It's I'm prepping for a broadcast on Friday night in the Bronx, Friday afternoon. Now they moved it up in the Bronx.
Oh.
Cardinal Hayes, Monsignor Scanlon in the Catholic League on Varsity Media.
There you go. Excellent. Nicely done.
Saturday, I'm at Hofstra for working the replay system with the officials and all that. I think they're playing Monmouth.
Oh, please just make it better than it was in the SEC last night.
And then, I've got a deadline looming, I think, for next week with USA Lacrosse already on, the top 10 teams in the region, top 5 players for boys and girls in the Northeast. So it's a lot of worlds kind of colliding at the moment for me. So
definitely, I can agree. So when do preseason training camp start? Is there anybody in the barn this weekend that starts things while you're busy with other things, or do you have any dates that you have to go and you get to go and crash early training camps yet? Or is everybody still kind of just sitting there going, nah?
No, I think it's still early for that. We're kind of also trying to figure out a little bit of, how we're navigating coverage of preseason, because ultimately you're going to have those situations where, second half, you'll have trialist number 7 playing.
Yes. Yes, you will.
Do we want to, maybe change the coverage there and not include those guys? Like, I don't know. We're figuring out things as the season rapidly approaches.
Last question for you. Since we are now in the January window, your beloved Newcastle is 9th, but it's a street fight right now. Obviously, you get a good week and you can go as high as 5th. I believe Eddie Howe was like, we got some stuff we got to do, but it is kind of what it is right now with the PSR and all those lovely kinds of things that they're having to navigate. Newcastle,
but in the Champions League, it's looking good. So that was always a concern with any of these. Like, it's at what point do you just run out of gas? And they've navigated those waters pretty well, I think, between the two. And as you said, 9th, but just a couple of wins away from now booking that spot again for next year, right? So that's the whole thing, right? Like, the key to getting into the realm of the cities and the Liverpools and the teams that seemingly have unlimited funds to use is to make the Champions League an annual occurrence. So that's, I think, currently what this group is trying to do.
Our next matchup is 2 weeks from today, actually, when PSV visits at 3:00 in the afternoon, and you're a decided favorite 2 weeks out in the juice boxes at a -227. The current standings, by the way, because you're trying to be in that first 8.
Right.
You don't want to have to do like what Crystal Palace has to do and play 9 games in a month because you didn't close the deal in the last group stage match. Right now, you're 12th at 10 points. And so the log jam above you've got to, 12 points right now gets you into the top 8. So you got to climb over some folks. But right now, 3-1-2 in your first 6, plus 7 in goal difference, 10 points. But you kind of hiccuped your way to where you are right now. You've hit each column once in your last 3 with a win.
Yeah, that last one, I think it was that the draw?
Yeah, Leverkusen.
Yeah, that was a tough one. We had the lead early in that and gave it away. That would have been a really nice one to get those points.
Yes. Dylan Butler at Dylan_Butler, MLSsoccer.com. All the things Newcastle, all the things Major League Soccer. Varsity Media on the YouTubes when it comes to the high school game with all of the sports that he's calling right now. He's calling 17 different sports on Varsity Media and juggling that with MLSsoccer.com. Great to see you, my friend.
And then if you're watching the Hofstra Monmouth game on Saturday,
look at the scoring table and see if you
I'll
can.
be right over there. Yeah,
Hofstra Monmouth probably on the plus, so we'll keep an eye on that as well. As always, my friend, great to see you. What's the mug today?
We are grateful.
There we go. Yes, grateful. You see, there it is. He's grateful, and we are grateful that we get to have Dylan Butler come on every single Wednesday that his world will allow, considering he's juggling all these chainsaws. Good to see you, my friend, and we'll catch up with you next week.
All right, buddy.
All right, there goes Dylan. Dylan is his segment's over, so he's sipping his coffee. He's good to go. All right. Now, got to go into a couple of different things. We do have our interview in the queue. We're where we get to break down things in the OFC Pro League with Rabeih Krayem and find out what life is like for the Solomon Kings as we start our coverage of the OFC Pro League. So let's get into all the other stuff that's going on right now, and we'll get into that interview in just a bit. Chicago Stars planning to open their own training facility in 2027. So those schematics and those pretty pictures have come up online. So good for the Chicago Stars having their own place where they can, practice and get fit as they see fit. Washington Spirit has signed keeper Kaylee Collins to a new contract. It's a 1-year deal to remain in D.C. The Pittsburgh Riverhounds have signed midfielder Elliot Goldthorpe for the upcoming USL Championship season club option for 27, pending USL and U.S. Soccer approval of the deal. Native of Leeds, spent last year between Lexington and a loan spell with Tulsa, 34 appearances, 14 starts, 3+4 for Elliot Goldthorpe. And once again, when things are still in flux with the USL and the conversations with the PA over the collective bargaining agreement, anything happens seismic, we're going to catch up with Kaylor Hodges and find out what's on his mind about all of that. Now, Spurs have made a fresh offer to Santos in the worth of €15 million for Brazilian left back Sosa. Keen on the move. Santos yet to answer. The Brazilian club want to sell on as a part of any deal, and that goes to our friend Ben Jacobs this morning. Like I said, we are efforting Ben on Friday. We just don't know the when yet. Rest of the week, just so you know it, the Power Hour is tomorrow. Nino and Nico from 10 to 11. We'll discuss everything Major League Soccer that we know with them, and we'll go around the world with Nino Damas. And he will also give us his World Cup story of the week as we get ready for 2026 and the world coming to this particular hemisphere. Friday is stacked. Friday, we start things off with Cody Case, the head coach at Valdosta High. And Cody's going to let us know about a clinic, the first ever clinic in South Georgia. I think it's tied to the University of South Carolina and our dear friend Tony Annan. So we'll catch up with Cody, find out kind of as our high school coverage is about a month out from going full blast with the Creek Cup that you'll have on SDH and SDH2 on the network, where we're going to be at two schools doing matches all at the same time. So it's going to be fun to kick off our high school coverage there. And that'll be coming up in about a month. But Cody Case is going to join us, head coach at Valdosta, to discuss high school soccer in South Georgia and the clinic that they've got going on Saturday. See if we can catch up with our friends at Beyond Goals Mentoring for the first time in 2026. 10 o'clock, we get to catch up with Philip Goodrum. Tomorrow, we're going to catch up with him, and then the interview is going to run on Friday. Philip is now in Lexington, and so we'll find out what it's like for the change of address from Lou to Lex and the Bluegrass Derby, and what it's going to be like for him as one of the more prolific scorers in recent history in USL Championship to be heading to a new place in Lex SC, and then hopefully efforting our buddy Ben Jacobs as well in that 10 o'clock hour. So hopefully if we can get Ben at 10, we'll have him at 10. If we need him at 10:30, at 10:30, wherever it fits with Ben in that second hour on Friday, we'll catch up with Ben and we'll find out what's on Ben's mind in a week in the Premier League where nothing happened. So it's all right there on Friday. So Thursday busy, Friday busier, and that gets you into the weekend. Remember, training camp for Atlanta United starts this weekend as well, and we'll get into all of that going forward when it comes to all of the activity. So we mentioned Sosa, and your quarterfinals now in AFCON. They are set on the 9th. That is Mali and Senegal, Cameroon and Morocco. And then on the 10th, it is Algeria and Nigeria, and Egypt and Ivory Coast. They're in your final 8. Luis Campos, and whether Luis Enrique has rejected a new PSG deal. Luis Campos says it's 100% fake news. Current deal runs through 27. He's not a free agent this summer, despite suggestions. Bulgarian footballer Christian Balov drawing interest from Anderlecht, Trabzonspor, Ludogorets, Rakov Shestakova, and Karabag, 19-year-old at Slavia Sofia, available for just under €2 million. Ludogorets have also had one offer turned down. Then the new catching up with the new head coach at Chelsea, Liam Rosenior. He is saying he comes from a club where the average age was 20.8, youngest in Europe. I think we're a little older. and he's looking on becoming head coach. He already said to the players, getting to the club is one thing, but I want to win at this amazing football club with these players and staff. That's what his focus is on. And Strasburg has confirmed Gary O'Neill as their new head coach. Agreed in principle pending formalization. First training session, now that everything is on board, first training session tomorrow for Gary O'Neill and Strasburg. Man, I would have loved to have Wilfried Nancy there. 19-year-old winger Sani Suleiman, drawing interest from Spurs, Frankfurt, Anderlecht, and Sevilla. Slovak side AS Trenčín won around €6 million for him. No teenager outside Europe's Big Five has more progressive ball carries per 90 minutes at about 5.5. Antoine Semenyo set to undergo his Manchester City medical tomorrow after playing for Bournemouth against Spurs. Part of the £65 million agreement has seen Manchester City allow Semenyo to face Chelsea, Arsenal, and Spurs before formalizing the move. The deal has been placed back on January 1st. So that is a little bit of what is going on. I think Mark Gahey's move could happen in January. Oliver Glasner admits one club is leading the race. That's probably Manchester City. The discussion about caretaker manager looks like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer might be in line to be the caretaker manager for Manchester United. There's going to be a 3D coming up later this morning. Drew Dickinson, you might want to set your volume levels down a little bit when it comes to Drew with the new 3D, discussing everything that's going on with Amorim. And like I said, it looks like there have already been some kind of progressive talks involving Ole and him being caretaker manager for the rest of the year when it comes to Manchester United. Racing Louisville has added All-American forward Taylor White on a multi-year contract. Charleston Battery, U.S. Youth International Colton Swan joins on a multi-year deal. And so he was a standout with the Hoosiers youth national team and Colorado Rapids too. So Colton Swan is now with the Charleston Battery. Let's see if there's anything else that I might have missed. Michael Carrick, the Premier League side, plan to meet with Solskjaer and Carrick as they look for an interim appointment until the summer, and then they can kind of figure out where they want to go from here when it comes to the next round and the next individual who would be in charge at Manchester United. So we'll keep an eye on that. Paris FC have submitted, according to Fabrizio Romano, a transfer proposal to Burnley for Luca Koleosho as a January target. Talks ongoing while there's interest from Italy as well. And let's see, we have mentioned Suleiman. Let's see, I'm trying to double check and see if I've missed anything. I think we're in decent shape. Okay. Morning, Abby. And I know that if it's not you are not by yourself. If the Bartok Sliš stuff comes to pass, I'll check it in the next half hour or so, and then we'll check and see where we are with that. But obviously, worked so hard for the team. And if you look at his numbers, and I'll say this before we get into our conversation involving the OFC Pro and catching up with Rabeih Krayem down involving Solomon Kings. So here's the numbers for Bart Sliš, according to FBref. Defensive, we'll go ahead and we'll do defensive numbers first. Top 15% in aerials won. Top 20% in clearances per 90 minutes. Top quarter in blocks per 90 minutes. Top 10%, technically top 12%, he's a B+. 88th percentile in interceptions per 90 minutes. Progressive carries, top 20%. Progressive passes, top 15%. Pass completion, top 10%. Passes attempted, top 10%. You look at those numbers, and that's what you're getting in Bartosz Sliš. That's what he gave you last year. I mean, when you look at and you take you take those numbers from Bart, and you also add what it meant for him to wear the shirt, what it meant for him to not give up on nights where a lot of folks could have if they were given the opportunity. Bart was there for you. Bart probably led you in miles ran per match, tracking back defensively, getting engaged offensively, the emotional part of it, wearing the captain's armband, all of those things. When you come back in defensive posture, he's right there at the front lines. One of the first guys to go forward when you've got the ball in transition. Instead of, when we mention the passing percentages, it's progressive passes. It's not side to side. It's progressive. Top 15%, top 20%, top 15%. So you look at his defensive numbers when it comes to picks and shot blocks. Shot blocks, top 4% in the overall. Having that kind of a presence as a holding midfielder for Atlanta United, I'll say this: if the deal does go through, he will be missed here on a bunch of different levels. And I hope that he goes, and if he's going to Brøndby, I hope he goes over there and kicks ass and reminds everybody about what Atlanta United can do when it comes to developing players. So that's what you're looking at if Bart Slieš ends up going to Brøndby. Like I said, right now, you've got a great two-way defender, you got a two-way player, meaning offensively and defensively. And then you're going to Brøndby, and Brøndby seems to be wanting to open up the piggy bank because this is not the only player that is linked to Brøndby at the moment. So you're going to a historic club in Denmark if this does come to pass. And you get to say that, a player from Atlanta United was interested, a club in Denmark was interested in a player from Atlanta United who serves you well on both sides, both offensively and defensively. So like I said, we're looking at it right now, and it is $3 million, but some folks are sitting there and it's $3 million US, it's $3 million euro, it's whatever it is. So that's what you're looking at. So finding a replacement, find the individual that can do the same things. Sure, you can fill a roster slot, but finding a replacement for both action, offensively, defensively, emotion, heart, understanding, all those things. It's one of your best players last season that gave you all that. So we'll keep an eye on it, obviously. That's the latest when it comes to Bart Slieš. Don't have an update yet. After this interview that we have with Rabeih Krayem, then we'll see if we have anything else that has popped up on the board, and we'll break it all down for you before we get out of here. So, yes, we are going long this morning. Once again, for those of you that might have missed the description in hour number one, as I take care of the bots also, late last night, our time, is the middle of the afternoon in Brisbane, Australia. And so we were able to catch up with the vice chair of one of the 8 teams that is starting in the OFC Pro League in Oceania in a week and a half, at the end of next week. It is a venture by the Oceania Football Confederation to try and boost the game by having your first ever pro league in that particular part of the world. And it is 8 separate franchises, and we're going to keep an eye on each of these franchises, what they're learning about themselves, what they're learning about the game, because I can't remember the last time that you had a league starting from scratch that came online this quickly and is trying to be this representation of Oceania as a confederation and how you're trying to grow. So we're going to try and catch up with each of the 8 teams. We've caught up with our first, at least on tape. We've been having conversations with the other teams that have reached back out to us. So this is our first conversation and finding out about the Oceania, the OFC Pro League, about Oceania as a confederation, about what the sport means to that part of the world, because it's part of our coverage as we get you ready for the world coming here in the spring and summer. And Abby has been drifting in and out because she's got volunteer stuff that she's got to be doing. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to introduce you to the rest of the world like we do on the Roots, and we have the chance to do it here on SDH AM. We do it here on SDH AM. So first opportunity we have to let you know what's going on in the OFC Pro League. We go to our conversation that we had in Brisbane, Australia, with Rabeih Krayem, who of the president of the Wynnum Wolves, but the vice chair of the Solomon Kings franchise in the OFC Pro League. So it's a fun conversation, and we hope you enjoy it. We'll catch up with you and put a bow on the midweek here on the other side. Here's our conversation with Rabeih Krayem, OFC Pro League, Solomon Kings Vice Chair, President of the Wynnum Wolves in Australia. And so, Robbie, my first question for you is, as I am talking to you at an incredibly late hour, East Coast time of the United States, what time is it where you are right now?
Well, I'm in Brisbane, Australia at the moment. It's 2:30 in the afternoon on Wednesday. So a decent time for me rather than for you 11:30 at night, but it's great to be here talking to you.
Thank you for being the first one in the barn for the education on the OFC Pro League. What is it like for you and everyone that is attached to the league, whether you're a player, administrator, front office, whatever? What's it like to be at this point where you're a week and a half from starting it for real?
I don't know whether it's panic stations yet, but I think it's been an exciting time for everybody. I mean, obviously, the league was announced earlier this year. The teams were only finalised in September last year, 2025. So it's been a lot of work by a lot of clubs. I mean, obviously, our club, the Solomon Kings, which is a partnership between Wynnum Wolves and Brisbane and the Solomon Islands Federation, been very, very, very hectic. I think the challenging part, you're trying to create a club in a short space of time. And so it's been very hectic. It's been exciting. I think the exciting part, the players are here in Brisbane in a camp now, ready to go to New Zealand next week for the first game. So players got onto the training field reel. Prior to that, it was all administration, it was all paperwork. But I think across the board, there's an excitement, in particular, I think, in the islands, in the Pacific Islands, where, you know, I mean, this is the first professional competition in the Oceania region. And, you know, from the Solomon Islands team, the Solomon Kings is the very first professional sporting team. No other sport's done it. So it's an exciting time for the country, exciting time for football. But I think for the whole region, everyone's excited about what it's going to look like because there's something new. And there's no home and away games. We're in hubs, and which will be an interesting time to have.
And you mentioned the 8 franchises, just for the record. It's Auckland FC, it's Bula, which is based in Fiji, PNG Hikari FC, which is in Papua New Guinea, Solomon Kings, Tahiti United, Vanuatu United, South Island United in New Zealand, and South Melbourne FC. And you mentioned the hubs. And obviously, when we're talking about Solomon specifically, it's not like you can hop in an Uber from where you are and go to the stadium and have a home and away with somebody. It's like you can't have a home and away with PNG Hikari in the Solomon Islands. And so the hub idea, I think, adds audience to it, and it adds interest from other places in addition to those initial franchise locations.
I think so. Look, I think the thing, you've got to give it to the OFC and FIFA for backing this, because otherwise, without their support, this wouldn't have happened. So I think logistically, from stadium facilities to the travel component, the hub idea has a lot of merit. And, you know, obviously for the Solomons team, we started training in Solomon Islands prior to Christmas. We arrived here in Australia just after Christmas for New Year to base ourselves in a camp here, because it's quicker to go to Brisbane to Auckland than it is from Solomon Islands. So from the Solomons team is that they actually, the players won't go back home till February. So we will go to Auckland next week. They'll come back to Brisbane for a couple of days, train, then get on a plane and go to PNG for 2 weeks, come back to Brisbane for 2 weeks, go to Melbourne for 2 weeks, and then they'll fly back to Solomon Islands. So it's not only just about for the players adapting to professional life, it's the travel component. And I suppose it's, you know, from the coaches and the club's perspective, is to make it as much as family orientated for the players who are really just living out of a suitcase for such a period of time. I mean, it's a little bit different for the New Zealand teams. It's easy it's more for the island team, in particular, a team like Solomon Islands. You know, logistically, the travel component is it's not.
No. What has it been like for player interest? Because I would imagine that you across the board need a specific kind of individual who understands the demands of the travel component, understands the demands of what it's like to be something from absolute zero, and you have to be a special. You have to have a special kind of constitution, both athletically and emotionally, to get into something like this and understand its gravity, I would think.
Yeah, look, I think that the part is obviously in the Solomon Islands. A lot of the players have had experience offshore to come and play in Australia or in New Zealand. I think the hard part has been once the players have got over, the first days like being kids inside the lolly shop. It's all excitement. What can I do? And now we're sort of 2 weeks into a camp and it's like saying, oh, right, okay, now we're going to do this every day. So a lot of the time the coaches have been working to make sure the players have an intensive training session, have their downtime. The meal components have been an important part. I think it's been good for the teams like from the Solomon Islands to be here. I think it's the 2-week camp here in Australia has allowed them to bond together because they're going into camp, and we're ready for it. Where, other teams aren't in camps. They're working out of their own countries. We made a decision that we'll bring them here to Brisbane to train in facilities and bring the team together. But look, from the players' perspective, I think they're excited, especially for the Solomon Island players. This is, to be the first professional team in your country is a big honour. For these players, they're starting to earn money, which is unheard of, So I think as much as it is for the football excitement, it's more about, down the track, I'm the first player to play professional football in the Solomon Islands. So I think it's a challenge. I think as we get to the first hub, to play 3 games in 10 days, it's a big ask for the squad. Then you're coming back, then you've got to go to PNG, which is, again, different weather conditions. So, look, I think it's been all-encompassing from the coaching staff. A lot of it's been, as much as been on the field, it's off the field management. I mean, I know tomorrow, for example, we've got a big day out for them, the leisure out to one of the islands. They're going to go through a cultural day with our Indigenous friends. They've got going to go to the ocean, go to some cultural centres, taste some exotic foods. I think we're trying to make it into as much as a football experience, but it's a cultural experience.
I've been trying to get as educated as possible in all of these things as you're getting right up with the league. What's it like to have not just the head of a football federation come and visit you there, but then you end up with Prime Minister Masele come and kind of see what's going on? What's it like to have that kind of a dignitary come, because he knows how important it is in the grand scheme of things as well?
I think when I went to the Solomon Islands back in July when we first met the Prime Minister, and what was supposed to be a half-hour meeting ended up being an hour-and-a-half meeting, I think we sometimes underestimate the power of sport. And I think sometimes we, like in America and Australia, we take it for granted that, sport's around. I think the impact this team will have off the field is far greater than anyone else will benefit, because this is life-changing for those kids. It's giving the kids in the Solomon Islands the hope and the vision that they're going to play at that highest level. So I think it's, and for the Prime Minister, it's been a significant part of the changes that's going to happen. And he understands, the young kids in the Solomon Islands to aspire to play professional sport. I mean, football's the number one sport in the Solomon Islands, and having a team there is only going to improve every year. And ultimately, what it's going to lead is World Cup qualifications for the country. Under 17s, the under 23s, first team. I mean, the goal for the club, our partnership with the Federation, is for the Solomon Islands to qualify in 2034 for the World Cup. That's our goal. If we get this right, and I know we will, off the field, work technically, improve both on and off the field, there is no reason why the Solomon Islands can't qualify for a World Cup within 8 years.
And we have covered the Marshall Islands quest as well. The Marshall Islands Soccer Federation, we've been in lockstep with them ever since they tried to. They announced that they were going to be trying to go down this same road. When it comes to, I guess, Oceania in general, obviously you have the Pro League coming online, but where would you say the game is right now when it comes to infrastructure, ability, number of athletes? Where is Oceania right now in the world sphere, do you think? Where does the work need to go?
I think there's no doubt infrastructure is a key component. And we're lucky in the Solomon Islands that we've got a national sports centre that was built for the Oceania Games a number of years ago. So they've got the facilities there. I think there are other countries that need more infrastructure. I think the biggest thing for the improvement of the game is going to be the technical improvement, and that is improving coaches and administration. I think technically, the players are there. It's just providing with the right coaching, the right structure off the field. We're lucky in the Solomons that we've got the facilities. Obviously, we need more facilities, but at the start, you appreciate what you've got. But I think the biggest impact out of this, of having a professional team, is the impact on coaches, to upskill the coaches, to make sure that the 10-year-old today is getting the right coaching to make him ready for an under-17s, under-18s. And I think that's what we're going to see. But overall, I think from a player perspective, technically, very highly regarded. I think it's more, they've got the skills. It's having that football, understanding the game more technically from a coach perspective. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing we'll have.
How much of a learning experience has it been for you and everybody there at Wynnum Wolves to embrace the idea, to understand that Solomon is going to be there as a part of this fabric of this thing going forward? How much of a learning experience has it been for you dealing with the idea of the Solomon Kings?
Look, I think our club's had a history with the Solomon Islands up to 30 years ago. It's really interesting how this all came about. After the coup, I think in the early 2000s, late 90s, Solomon Football went out to around Australia saying, does any team want to come to play us? And Wynnum Wolves was the team that put their hand up and said, we would like to come. And that's how the relationship first started. And over the years, we've had hosted players, but it sort of fell off during COVID and before COVID. But I think when the idea was that there was going to be an Oceania Pro League, we looked at it, would Wynnum Wolves enter a team on its own, like South Melbourne? And we looked at it and looked at the pros and cons and thought, well, the pros, why don't we partner with the nation and work through it? And really for Solomon Islands was an easy fit for us because of our previous relationship. I think the learning has been is we assumed they didn't have infrastructure. First thing to do. But when you go there and see the facilities, you've got facilities. I think what it does, it actually brought the love of football back for a number of us, because when we went there, football's the number one sport. So you actually, when they say, what does it mean for these kids to play football, which is far greater than other places? And, thinking we take things for granted in Australia. We take our infrastructure, we take our facilities, we take our coaching, we take everything for granted. But when you go there and see what little some of these players have or teams have, and the enjoyment they get out of it, we can make a difference. And I think what it does, it brings humility. It also teaches you the power of our game. And I think that's really what it was for us. And, we main values as the Solomon Islands Football Federation and the country itself. So it was an easy link because we get on and we're, both have the similar values and what we want to do in the game.
Is there an expectation on the field in year one when it comes to Solomon Kings, or is it let's go ahead and have patience and just see where it goes? Is there an on-the-field expectation?
Well, I think everyone who plays sport wants to win, and I think everyone wants to say we want to make the top four because that's the goal. That's what you play sport for. I think what we want to be able to do is be competitive, give ourselves the opportunity to be in that winning position. And I think once you give yourself the opportunity, who knows what happens. I think what we can do is provide the experience as much off the field. We can't control what happens on the field. That's players and other things. But I think we can provide everything off the field to give the team the best opportunity to be competitive and win. We've done our job. I think we just want to be competitive that the country can be proud of the team, win, lose, or draw.
Rabeih Krayem hanging out with us. He's the president of Wynnum Wolves. Also, how would you best describe your role with Solomon Kings with the OFC Pro League? Grand Exalted Poobah.
Well,
how would you break it down?
Well, I'm the deputy chairman of the club, and currently doing a bit of helping out with administration as the CEO at the same time. So, but I'm one of the lucky ones. I can volunteer to do this job, and and I think when you do this thing because you love it, It's not a job for me. And so I think for us, you can only build things once. You can't do it twice. And so I think if we can build this, set at the right scene, and contribute, and and I think when you're working with good people, they might not have the skills, but they've got the values. You can always upskill someone. Can't teach people values. And I think one of the things that it's exciting about working with the whole Solomon Islands Football Federation is the values that they hold as people, as a nation, as a sporting organisation. And they're so willing to learn and listen and be guided. And I think that only makes you a good person. And so I think if we can continue that, and as a football club, as long as we don't lose who we are, and we're humble when we win, we're humble when we lose, the club will be a success. And I think ultimately we want to upskill more administrators out of the Solomon Islands that can run this team. That's when we've achieved everything we want to do.
I know that community is important there with Wynnum Wolves, because all you have to do is look at the impact that a cyclone can have, and you have an entire community come out there, and it's like, all right, what do we need to do? Let's clean things up. Let's dust off. Let's put on our hip waders. What was it? 4 hours where you had 1,000 people, 4 hours, and everything was cleaned up, and you were ready to get back to it.
Yeah, we were. I mean, we're. It's really interesting. 2022, we suffered the first flood, which is significant. And, within 4 hours, we had over 1,000 people who cleaned the whole place up. We suffered significant damage, and we thought, okay, let's move on. Then obviously last year in February 2025, Cyclone Alfred, floods. And we thought, here we go again. We've gone through it again. And again, the people just came up. And so I think one thing, the power of football and creating a community culture, it's more than just a football club. It's a place where people feel comfortable, where people feel home, that people can be the best they can be, whether it be playing academy football or I just want to play with my friends, whether you're a male or a female. But I think if you create that sort of safe environment where you can take kids off the streets or out of computers and put them in a sporting environment, I think that's what we've achieved. And, when you look at the growth of this club, this year we'll crack 1,800 players. Over 110 teams we'll have this year, which will make us probably the biggest football club in the country. I do that with people. And we're run, yes, we've got full-time technical people, we've got some full-time administrators, but predominantly our committee is all volunteers. People like myself and others, we give up our time because we, as someone who came to Australia as a migrant, when I came to Australia as an 8-year-old playing and I played rugby league, not football, the football club looked after me. So it became a second home for me. And I think sometimes we've lost that way. I don't know what it's like in America because, sometimes here in Australia, we focus on who's going to be the next professional rather than saying who's going to be the next good person.
Yeah, and what we like to do here at the SDH Network, we are a firm believer that a rising tide lifts all boats. And for us, it's important to tell a story, whether it's around the corner or whether it's 3/4 of the way around the world, because the more that we think we're different, really, the more we're the same. And if we continue to be reminded of those kinds of things, we all get to walk in the same direction and sit there and go, yeah, we are on the right path here. Yeah, we can be there to help out the other person. We can sit there and help grow the game by doing A, B, C, D, or E. And so, that was another reason that we wanted to try and reach out here as a part of this series, is to remind everybody that, yeah, you're not alone in this. And at the same time, you might think you're really far away from those that feel the same way that you do, but you're really not.
I think the hardest thing in life is always to ask for help. The easiest thing is to help someone. And I think sometimes, we get that football connects us in so many different ways. And we're privileged enough here, and I'm privileged enough here to have made a lot of friends through football around the world. Some of the highest profile footballers around the world become friends because they're good people. And I think sometimes we focus on the top level of, whether it be the English Premier League or La Liga or the MLS or the A-League. But I think sometimes we forget that without that, what I would call the heart of football, which is its community, we don't have the professional game. And I think the power of what we can do, just simply talking to you, hopefully your audience will listen a bit more about what happens in our club. I mean, I will share with you, there's a documentary that we're releasing very shortly. It's a 15-minute documentary about Wynnum that we've done. The history is, it's very hard to describe an apple if you've never tasted one. So it's very hard to describe this club, which is 105 years old. So we put together a 15-minute documentary, which hopefully will show people what 100 years ago was like to where we are today, and the challenges a club like ours has had, but what it means to a football community. And I think, we'll show that. I'm happy to share that with you, for you to show it on your network, because I think it will tell a story. And I think, for us, the more people that know can go to their sporting club, whether it be football or NFL, it doesn't matter. As long as you're involved in a community sport, we're going to improve as people.
How much has the Wynnum community learned about the Solomon Islands, and how much has the Solomon Islands community learned about Wynnum and what goes on since you're 400, 500 miles apart? How much learning has gone on so far?
I think the Wynnum football community has taken the team to its heart, because we share the same colours, we share the love of sport, and I think it's the values and the players. I mean, they're the most humble people you ever want to meet. So I think having them here, train here, being part of us, having similar resources, shared resources, they're not really, they're part of the family, and I think that sort of has been a big part. But it's the same when we go to Solomon's. People have embraced us because I think they see the support and values that we're providing to the Solomon Football Federation and the Solomon Kings.
How far are we talking, geographically, from the 8 franchises as they exist? Was I close with Brisbane to Honiara? How close was
so
it?
let me give it to you. To fly from Brisbane to Honiara, it's 3 hours by plane.
Okay.
To fly from Brisbane to New Zealand, it's 3.5 hours.
Okay.
To go to Fiji, so Brisbane's sort of like in between. So to go from, for example, a lot of the places that Solomon Islands, you have to come to Australia to go to the next country, right? You can't fly direct. So, you have to come to Brisbane to go to Vanuatu. So you've got to come to Brisbane to go to PNG. So there's a whole mix. And that's why, for us being in Brisbane, sort of like a centre hub. But literally you are 3.5 hours by plane to all the hubs, So, and you've got to go through, you need visas and you need passports and you need the whole process. It's not as simple as getting on an airplane.
I was going to ask, when it comes to the logistics of making something like this happen, even though you are doing the hub approach, what are folks not knowing about the things that you have to tackle administratively to make something like this go?
The biggest issue is visas. For example, to go to New Zealand, every Solomon Island player has to get a visa. And you've got to go through a process. Then you've got to go to PNG. Now, the issue will be, if you get an injury, you have to bring another player on. You can't put them on a plane. You've got to get a visa for them. So the travel logistics is probably the biggest challenge. But there's been a lot of work put together by the AFC to work with each of the teams, how we make it work. That's probably been the biggest logistics of how we're going to get there. The other challenge is really, one of the reasons why we've put together a hub for the Solomons here in Brisbane is to get the understanding, travel, work, training, feed, because now we go to the Solomon Islands, and where we go to New Zealand, we've got 3 games in 10 days. So we'll leave Brisbane on a Thursday. We'll have a game on Sunday. We'll have a game on Wednesday, and then we'll have a game on Saturday. And then we fly back to Australia for 3 days and get on a plane again. So I think some of it we're prepared, but some of it you've actually just got to be ready to face when you've got. It's the unknown, but what you can do is just be best prepared that you can be. And look, the biggest challenge is telling people not to panic. There's no use panicking. Focus. Spend all your energy on the problem. And I think that's what we're telling everybody. Don't tell me the problem. Let's work. Let's not talk hours about the problem. What is the problem? Now let's spend the next 3 hours focus on a solution. And I think we're going to have that as we go along. Are we going to get it right along the way? We're going to make mistakes because this is new. But most importantly, we're united in the solution process. And I've got to put the head to, the OFC. They've done a fantastic job. I mean, you try put together a competition from, 8 teams, 6 different countries, bring them together, different languages, it's a big challenge, but they've done a fantastic job. And every game will be broadcast on FIFA Plus.
Then my question is for you, and I ask this in every franchise organization that is launching. I've always asked this question. I know that somewhere in your office, as you and I are talking right now, there's a to-do list. I mean, it could be on a Google Doc. It could be on. Well, I mean, look, I'll show you right here for those that are just on the video side of things. I have the loose leaf binder notebooks with all my assignments and everything. I have the legal pads that have practically. Let's see, I have 7 different designations from you in your past. So you probably end up using like both sides of the business card when I was trying to do my research about everything. So it's a legal pad, it's a wire-bound notebook, it's a Google Doc, or is it one of those 6-foot by 8-foot white dry erase boards that's got a bunch of squiggles and lines and everything? Where is this to-do list that you have there for Solomon Kings, and what's the next thing you think you can cross off of it as you get ready for the premiere?
I think today was the big one, is having every player registered with passports, their medicals, their player contracts, all on the registration system. Now, cutoff point was 5 p.m. today. We finished it at 1 p.m. this afternoon. That was probably the biggest challenge, trying to get. That would be the biggest one to get through. That was it. Without having all those players registered in the systems, trying to get passports, valid passports, medicals, that's been a big challenge. But that's the big one. The players are in. We're ready to go. I think there's little bits and pieces coming through. But look, I think the key is, the simple part, getting the playing kit, the training kit. Because recall, we didn't know the team was official till end of September. The players weren't signed until November, early December. In the meantime, we're trying, and then we've got Christmas break. So we've got gear coming everywhere. So the actual playing strip doesn't arrive in Brisbane until Monday. And we leave on Thursday.
Ooh.
So that's the challenge. We've got plan Bs involved, but the reality, I think whether you've got 3 months or you get 12 months or you get 3 days, there's always the last minute things. And I think we've got some really good people that we've been able to break it down. Everyone takes the tasks, because I think if it was left to one person, they'll go crazy. But I think every afternoon we reflect what we've achieved and what we've got next to do. And as I said to you, most important thing is focus on the solution, not the problem.
And make sure that you wash all of the kits and the jerseys in cold before you're out the door on Thursday before you get to your first match.
Absolutely.
I learned that mistake this week with just my normal laundry. Mr. Krayem, I cannot thank you enough for doing this and opening the door for OFC Pro League. Go to ofcproleague.com. Then you hit the team section. You can do your research and find out about all the 8 individual first teams that are walking in the door with the OFC Pro League. Solomon Kings is where our focus is today. I would like to raise my hand and sit there and go, we'd like to come back and visit as the season goes and kind of just get the progress reports about what you're learning and what everybody's learning and what the education is like and all of those things. So I'd like to raise my hand now and say we'd like to come back. Is that okay?
We would love to give you the update about our journey of where we are, because I think it's an exciting journey and it's a little bit different to most. But yeah, no, we would love to keep you updated of our journey over the next 5 months of how we progress both on and off the field.
Looking forward to it. So as always, my friend, great to see you. Thanks for dropping by. Be safe, and we cannot wait for this thing to get off the ground. Solomon Kings and everything that you're doing there at Wynnum. Can't thank you enough for dropping by.
Just make sure that you're following the black and yellow. That's all we want.
And you try and maybe add a camera in here. So show camera. How about that? There we go. All right, there he is. Great to catch up and start those conversations with our friends in Oceania. Yeah, 15-hour time difference. And so we taped that last night, 11:30 hour time, and we were able to turn it 11 and a half hours later. So Rabeih Krayem, the deputy chair of the Solomon Kings franchise, one of the 8 initial franchises in the OFC Pro League. They're starting next Friday, and we're catching up with other folks. I think Auckland is in the queue, and a couple of others we're having conversations with. So we're going to try and catch up with as many of them as we can, and then we'll work our way into the rest of the league and all the stories and the storylines and find out what's going on with the league as it goes off the ground. An important moment for the region and an important moment for the Confederation. And so it was great that we were able to start these conversations with our friends at the Solomon Kings and with Mr. Krayem, the president of the Wynnum Wolves. So very, very cool to catch up with folks in Brisbane, Australia, late last night to be able to share it with you today. A couple of other things before we get out of here this morning. The She Believes Cup has been announced, presented by Visa. And so this year, USA, Argentina, Canada, Colombia. And it's going to be doubleheaders in Nashville, Columbus, and Harrison, New Jersey. Geodis gets it March 1st. And Scott's Miracle Grove Field is going to host it March 4th in Columbus. And Harrison, New Jersey, the SI Stadium is going to host it March 7. And the finale is going to have your pregame retirement celebration for Tobin Heath. So that's the rundown there. March 1st, doubleheader at Geodis. Canada, Colombia, USA, Argentina. Columbus, Ohio gets the doubleheader March the 4th. And then Sports Illustrated Stadium gets the doubleheader on March the 7th. So that's She Believes. That's your notes on that. Ticket presale, by the way, begins tomorrow. And general public sale starts on Monday. So word came out from Crew about 2 minutes before it came out from U.S. Soccer. Laurel Failer in Cincinnati. FC Cincinnati's finalizing a deal to acquire Brian Ramirez from LDU Quito after Luca Orellano transferred to Monterrey. That is in the final stages. So with Orellano looking like he's heading to Monterrey, the replacement coming in looks like it's going to be Brian Ramirez, $3 million transfer for an Ecuadorian midfielder who is currently at LDU Quito, according to multiple sources through our Laurel Failer paperwork and process. Post Cincy in the move pending a receipt of the transfer certificate and the P1 visa. Orellano arrived in Monterrey on Tuesday, expected to undergo medicals before signing what's been reported as a 4-year deal. FCC and Monterrey had already come to the agreement on the transfer. Orellano had been finding up his part of the deal. Minor holdup with Major League Soccer. And according to Failer, Ramirez has a similar profile to Orellano, mainly playing as a winger, multiple midfield roles at LDU, both sides of the pitch. Also has experience at left back. General manager Chris Albright indicated the 25 season club would be changing the way it scouts wingbacks. And so it looks like Brian Ramirez from LDU Quito might be coming in to be the replacement for Luca Orellano as he heads to Monterrey. So you got that this morning. You've also got another couple of moves. In Austin, the A-League, it looks like Western United has avoided liquidation after securing funds to pay more than $15 million of tax debt. Man, pay the tax man. Tax man's always undefeated. Also on the board, it is San Diego. They have transferred the rights to midfielder Heine Gickling Bruset to Kristiansund BK. So that has happened this morning from San Diego. And he is going to go to Kristiansund BK in the Eliteserien in Norway. There's a future sell-on for HGB. Joined as one of the 5 players selected in the expansion draft. 9 occasions on the roster. Joined Sarpsborg 08 on loan for the remainder of the 25 season. Debut back in July. 10 appearances for them. So HGB, Heine Gickling Bruset, transferred to Kristiansund, and San Diego FC gets a retention percentage for them. Also, Kyle Smith is now signed with FC Cincinnati. Cincinnati native and MLS veteran fullback inks a deal through 26 with an option for 27. Cincinnati LaSalle grad, over 300 appearances. So he goes from Orlando to FC Cincinnati, and it was once again signed earlier today, officially official, and contract through 26, option through June of 27. And we mentioned what's going on in Racing Louisville and in Charleston. San Jose for Chance Cowell, by the way, got up to $650,000 in Garber Bucks and GAM to make sure that would happen there as well. So I think that's it for news. what to watch, where to watch it, and how to watch it. That comes from our friends at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. And what you can do is hit that link, fntz.co/soccer down here. That link is important, helps them out, helps us out, helps you out adding more matches to everything that you've already started watching with Fanatis. You get BN, you get all the BNs. That's the home of AFCON. You get Say matches from Argentina, more leagues across South America, all in one place. One subscription, one home at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. 8 matches in the Premier League today, and 6 of them are at 2:30. 2 of them are at 3:15. Bournemouth favored at home against Spurs at a +114. Spurs are a +229. Brentford a -120 at the G-Tech hosting Sunderland at a +355. Crystal Palace a +204 at home hosting Aston Villa at a +139. Everton a -119 hosting Wolves at a +363 at Bramley Moor Dock. Fulham at Craven Cottage a +273 hosting Chelsea at a -105. Manchester City, big favorite, a -204 in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal, hosting Brighton at a +478. Burnley, a big underdog at home at Turf Moor at a +405. Manchester United visiting at a -147. After this show is over, the 3D will be up with Drew. He'll have his thoughts on Amorim and the firing, the next and the latest and all that stuff, so set your notifications there. Newcastle also at 3:15, hosting Leeds at a -147. Leeds is a +416. Your draw is a +282. What else is on today? Supercopa is on the Deuce at 2 o'clock with Barcelona and Athletic Club. USA has Burnley and Manchester United at 3:15. ESPN Deportes simulcasting the Supercopa. Paramount Plus has Serie A, 5 matches, 2 at 12:33 at 2:45. Peacock has all 7 matches that are not on USA. So if you want to watch USA, you can watch USA at 3:15. All the 2:30s are on Peacock, and the 3:15 with Newcastle and Leeds United. So that is the rundown there of all of those matches. We'll let you know who survived today, tomorrow, and we'll see if Nuno has lived to fight another day, because once again, last match in this window before I think the FA Cup window is on tomorrow with Liverpool going to Arsenal. Then they have this weekend off. Then they come back next weekend. Manchester Derby, among others, starting on the 17th. So we'll have that for you as well with all the information. A couple of other things involving the Bart Slieš reports. Goal 24 out of Poland is saying that the second highest transfer in the history of the Scandinavian club. And it looks like, once again, they're looking at €3 million. The number that Bart Slieš came to the U.S. in January of 24 was about €3.2 million. So 69 matches, 4+1. And there's an interesting quote from Interia that was in November of last year. And it said, quote, "Things are just getting started. We'll see what the future holds. Everything will officially start on January 1. My goal and dream are the top 5 leagues in Europe. I feel ready for that. It's a good time to take the next step," said Slieš, apparently, as it was reported back in January. So, new player for Brøndby has already passed his medical, according to multiple reports. Contract will run through 29. Transfer fee will be just over $3 million. And so it's going to be a break-even deal, it looks like, for Atlanta United when this does come to pass. Second highest transfer in the Danish club's history. The first was Daniel Agar, who returned in August of 2014 to end his career. Brøndby paid €4 million for the defender back then. So that's kind of where we are. Multiple sources are saying that Bart Slieš has passed his medical, and it looks like it's going to be something along the lines of €3 million for the transfer when it does happen, and a transfer in the neighborhood of 2029. So news in Europe before we get out of here. Burnley board is backing Scott Parker, even though they are 10 points from safety, winless in their last 11 Premier League matches. Coventry have agreed on a deal with Romain Esse with Crystal Palace. We talked about that one yesterday. Koleosho expected to be recalled from his loan at Espanyol so he can go to Paris FC. We mentioned the Sosa talks. And Nuno Tavares, former Arsenal left back, set to leave Lazio. Saudi Arabian teams also want to sign. Portugal international left Arsenal for Lazio last summer following a loan spell. And yes, it's Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Michael Carrick, both in discussions, could be employed for the interim role at Manchester United for the remainder of the year. Nottingham Forest made an inquiry about Lorenzo Luca. According to this guy in Italy, as Arnold Calamuendo takes the final steps toward a loan to Eintracht Frankfurt. Luca would be complicated considering he's on loan at Atalanta from Napoli. Chris Wood is injured. Calamuendo is currently in Frankfurt undergoing a medical. Sky News has already reported their interest in Wolves' Jurgen Strand-Larsen, and it appears Luca is also on their radar. Edu is currently leading Forest work in the market, and I think the wick is kind of increased on Edu for results. So you're kind of keeping an eye on that as well. Eddie Howe distanced himself from the Manchester vacancy, the managerial vacancy at Manchester United. Pascal Gross is back with Brighton. West Ham expected to stick, according to Sky's Chris Reedy, with Nuno for now, despite growing concern over the club's recent results in a 10-game winless run. So Damian Downs has officially joined Hamburg on loan. We talked about that possibly happening yesterday. It is now officially official. Born in Germany, played for Cologne until he signed for Southampton in July. Started just once in the championship in 25-26. The picture's out. He's wearing the jersey pointing at the crest. Callum Marshall from West Ham has joined Bochum on loan for the rest of the year. Northern Ireland international, 2 first-team appearances for the Hammers, 61st-minute sub against both Arsenal and Brentford. Brentford have reached a verbal agreement to sign 17-year-old center back Chris Arine Ntamak-Pondi. Cameroonian talent wanted by several clubs, picked Brentford as his destination. And Crystal Palace confirmed that Nauru Ahamada has left the club to sign for Auxerre in Ligue 1. Played 31 times for the Eagles in all comps after arriving from Stuttgart in January of 2023. Let's get you into gossip, and then we'll get out of here because we are way over this morning. Not that there wasn't stuff to talk about. So we go here, and we go here, and we go, well, it doesn't really a whole lot. So Newcastle and Jurgen Strand-Larsen, that one's available. Newcastle Spurs. That's what it looks like for Strand-Larsen. Spurs looking at signing a forward with the Kudus injury apparently being worse than it thought. Roma says the situation over any move for Joshua Zirkzee has changed following Ruben Amorim's exit. Juve hopes of signing Chiesa, and that would depend on whether or not Salah stays at Anfield, according to Gazzetta dello Sport. Napoli are also keen on Chiesa. Liverpool have not had any formal approaches, unlikely to let him leave in January. Lewandowski doesn't want to leave Barca, despite a number of inquiries. That's from Florian Plettenberg. Also, Bayern Munich have offered Dio Upamecano, whose contract deal runs out in the summer, an improved extension offer and would prefer decisions sooner rather than later. AC Milan, interested in Kim Min-jae at Bayern Munich, need the German club to contribute to his salary for any deal to happen. That's from Gazzetta dello Sport. Real Madrid's Endrick, who's joined Lyon on loan, says Carlo Ancelotti advised him to leave the Spanish club to get more first-team football. Michael Antonio has seen a proposed deal with Leicester fall through after picking up a muscle knock, and he has not played a game for club since the car crash back in December 24. And Young Min Hyuk, who is 19, set to join Coventry City on loan from Spurs. Whew, that's a lot. All right, I'm going to clear my throat. I'm going to go get some lunch. We'll be back at it again tomorrow. Once again, Power Hour is available from 10 to 11 with Nino and Nico. We'll let you know what else is going on. We'll see if things are finally final when it comes to any possible ins and outs involving Atlanta United. So thanks to Rabeih Krayem, Solomon Kings Football Club, and the OFC Pro League. We're great to catch up with him. Great to catch up with Dylan Butler, as always. And thanks to Chris Doran for giving us everything going on in Columbus, including the thoughts on Darlington Nagby. That's a show. Back at it again tomorrow. Mucha plata, y'all. Play it safe. Since it is the end of the show, means we get to do this and catch our breaths. Back at it again in 21 and a half hours. Bye.